Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm now going to call the July 28th, 2020 regular town board meeting to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada. Councilman Delarada. Councilwoman Jakewith.
Here.
Okay, thank you, John.
Thank you.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Here.
Councilman McPartlin.
Here.
Supervisor Syed.
Here.
Thank you.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're now going to move on to approval of the minutes. First, we have the minutes of the June 23rd, 2020 emergency special meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Are there any changes, additions, or subtractions to these minutes? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll on these minutes? Or we can do an all in favor signify by saying aye.
Okay.
Aye.
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 Any opposed? And these minutes are approved. Next, we have the minutes of the June 30th, 2020 regular meeting. If I could have a second.
Second.
Thank you. Are there any changes, additions, or subtractions to these minutes? With none, all those in favor signified by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? And those minutes are approved. Lastly, we have the minutes of the July 8th, 2020 emergency special meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Are there any changes, additions, or subtractions to those minutes? With none, all those in favor signified by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And those minutes are approved.
I'd like to make a note that Councilwoman Jakewith is on the call now.
Thank you, Michelle. Okay. We're going to move into our public hearings. We have a number of public hearings. As Bill Lawrence stated before, I would ask all public hearing participants that have been shared the link to please keep your phones and or computers on mute until you hear your name called. I will call your name twice. If you experience technical difficulties and cannot connect or cannot be heard, I will read your statement into the record. If you submitted a statement that was after 5 p.m., we apologize. The deadline was 5. I don't believe we received any statements after 5 p.m., but if you were counting on your letter being heard and it was submitted after 5 p.m., unfortunately, that was the cutoff. So we do have a number of letters and emails to get through. So I'm going to begin now. Will the clerk please call the first public hearing?
Madam Supervisor, before the clerk calls the first of 6 hearings tonight, I'd like to make a motion, or can we have a gentlewoman's agreement that we can try to keep all statements to about 3 minutes, shoot for 3 minutes? I just don't know. I want to be respectful of the folks who want to speak in the 6th hearing. Is that possible, Madam Supervisor?
I believe we should be able to keep most of them under 3 minutes. Some of them are a couple pages long, so if I am reading them, I'm not sure where to cut them down for brevity, but we can certainly try. So I will second that motion if all approve. So we'll just take a simple aye. If you are in favor, signify by saying aye to that.
Aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Okay. All right, so we'll keep each statement, if you could, try and keep it under 3 minutes. And again, we have a lot to get through. We have 6 public hearings. I believe that's the most we've ever had in one night. I might be wrong, but it's a lot. So we are going to begin with the first public hearing, and if the clerk would please call that.
Michelle, sorry, I muted you because there was feedback with
A feedback with me? Oh, is it the fan? It's probably the fan. Hold on a second.
Michelle, just call the hearing. You can deal with that during the,
Well, I don't want there to be feedback through everything. A public hearing to amend section 147-5 of the code of the town of Niskuna to prohibit vaping and use of e-cigarettes at town parks.
Okay. So the first public hearing is now open. I have the first letter was submitted by Tina Lee. I was asked to read this into the record. And it starts with Supervisor Syed and town board members. My name is Tina Lee, and I'm a longtime resident of Niskuna, parent of 3 children, and member of the Niskuna Conservation Advisory Council.
Supervisor Syed, so I'm
Yes.
sorry to interrupt, but a number of people still have their mics on and we're getting a lot of feedback. So maybe if everybody could turn them off, we could hear you better.
Thanks. If anybody is not muted, I would ask that you mute yourself now. It looks like we've got that taken care of. Thank you. Just interrupt me if you can't hear me. Okay. My name is Tina Lee, and I'm a longtime resident of Niskuna, parent of 3 children, and member of the Niskuna Conservation Advisory Council. I am writing to support the proposed amendment to prohibit vaping and the use of electronic cigarettes within the confines of any Niskuna town park. Toxic emissions from vaping should not be allowed where families gather to enjoy our natural areas. Vaping is addictive and causes many dangerous health conditions. Keeping vaping out of our parks is just one step to try and curb this growing epidemic among our youth. We have a second statement that was asked to be read, submitted on behalf of Marcy Stouffer. It has come to my attention that e-cigarettes are not always included in smoke-free laws. I just wanted to express my concern about this oversight. The dangers of e-cigarettes are just as important to pay attention to as regular cigarettes. As a citizen, I do not want to be exposed to any kind of cigarette or e-cigarette, and it is my hope that my children will never have to be exposed to either. Please ban e-cigarettes and place as many restrictions on them as regular cigarettes. Our next statement was submitted by Rose Kent. Rose, are you joining us this evening? And last chance, Rose Kent, if you would like to submit your statement during the public hearing. Okay, I will read on behalf of Ms. Rose Kent. She writes, Dear Niskuna Town Board, I urge you to expand the provisions of the local law prohibiting the use of tobacco products in Niskuna Town parks to also prohibit the use of electronic cigarettes. As a mother and grandmother, I've spent countless hours with my family walking, running, biking, and playing sports in our town parks. Blatnick Park, River Road Park, and Lions Park offer safe, lovely spots to enjoy fresh air and exercise, in part thanks to the local law prohibiting the use of tobacco products. But this objective is only accomplished if all nicotine use is included in the policy. Therefore, this ban must be widened. Studies show that the aerosol from e-cigarettes is in no way safe as clear air. The vapors that e-cigarettes release contains nicotine and other harmful chemicals. This results in Niskuna residents, including children who use the park more than others, being exposed to toxic air when they pass by people using e-cigarettes in the park. This is not fair. I imagine your board must face weighty decisions with both sides presenting compelling arguments. On this issue, it seems clear what needs to be done for the best interest of our residents is ban e-cigarettes. and all of their products for use in our town parks. That concludes that letter. Is there anyone else on the call who wishes to submit their statement to the first public hearing?
Supervisor, I'm just going to ask for Laura Robertson to alert everyone as to how they can mute when they're calling in. There's a couple of folks on right now who are having difficulty muting their line.
Yeah, because the volume in the call, they come in muted. So they have to press *6 and then they should be able to speak. And then after you press *6, then just use the mute on your telephone. The *6 is from the system.
Thank you. Is there anyone left willing to speak during the first public hearing?
This is Teresa Zubretsky. Can you hear me?
Yes, Teresa. Thank you.
Yes. I would like to speak if that's okay, Madam
Please.
Supervisor. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Teresa Zubretsky, and I work with Capital District Tobacco-Free Communities. And in fact, worked with the town way back when you were the first town in the entire Capital District of Albany, Rensselaer, and Schenectady counties to make your parks tobacco-free. So you've been enjoying the benefits of that for a very long time. And at that time, e-cigarettes were not even on, or barely on, the market. They hadn't been on your radar. They certainly weren't on our radar at the time that you passed it. You're probably all well aware that the use of e-cigarettes in many cases has outpaced the use of combustible cigarettes in this state. And in response to that, fairly recently, in 2017, New York State did expand the provisions of the Clean Indoor Air Law to include e-cigarettes. And there were some very compelling reasons for that. And they're the same reasons that are worthy of your consideration as well. Some of the comments that have been read have already identified that even though the e-cig manufacturers would like people to believe that the emissions from these products are harmless water vapor, they're absolutely nothing of the sort. They're an aerosol. They contain particulate matter. That particulate matter includes nicotine and other carcinogenic and harmful byproducts. So they're hardly harmless in any way, and in many cases seriously toxic. Protecting people from secondhand smoke makes sense to also protect them from secondhand vape emissions. But also there are some really serious environmental concerns in terms of the littering that happens. It's liquid nicotine that's used in these products, which is extremely toxic, not only to the environment and the watershed, if you will, but also to pets and wildlife and children who are playing as well. So I guess I wanted to weigh in by saying thank you for your leadership in being one of the first or the first local municipality to make your parks tobacco-free. And I really appreciate your consideration of enhancing your current policy and expanding it as a way to even better protect the environment and the people and the visitors who use your parks. I know my family is among them. We ride your bike trails all the time. Lions Park is familiar. Yeah, they're beautiful, beautiful parks. And so not only your residents, but all the people in the community who enjoy your parks. So thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. It's been such a pleasure to work with you on this project. So thank you for calling in and being with us tonight.
Thank you. Is there anyone left willing to speak during the first public hearing?
Hi, my name is Ashok Ramasubramanian. I did not have a statement prepared for this issue, but if I'm given a little bit of time, I'd like to add my voice.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to quickly say that as a community member and a parent of 2 young children, I strongly support banning the use of e-cigarettes and vaping on town properties and parks. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone left willing to speak during the first public hearing? Last call on the first public hearing. If anyone else is willing to speak, please do so now. We will now close the first public hearing. We're going to move on to the second public hearing. Will the clerk please call the second public hearing?
A public hearing for a special use permit for an average density development at 2538 River Road, Health Farm.
Thank you. The second public hearing is now open. I will begin the second public hearing. All of the town board members, as well as myself, received a packet. We were all copied on it. I have the printed version here. It came with a cover letter. Certain residents of Windsor Drive wanted to make these documents part of the record, but didn't necessarily want them read. But I will read the cover letter, and again, all the town board members are privy to this information. So the cover letter reads, Supervisor Syed and town board members, in preparation for the July 28th public hearing for the Kelts Farm application, the Windsor Drive residents request that certain documents from the June 30th town board meeting be made part of the record for the public hearing. These documents consist of the following. Number one, the statement of Jonathan B. Tingley, attorney, dated June 30th, 2020. Number two, the statement of traffic consultant Wayne E. Bonesteel, PE, dated June 30th, 2020. And number three, the combined statements of Windsor Drive residents Dimple Gassi, Daniela and Bernardo Bigali, Connie and Paul Trigger, Soma D. and Rajib Dada, Raul and Florence Chakwala, and Arthur Pasquariello. I will deliver the above documents to Town Hall today in an envelope addressed to Supervisor Syed and will place the envelope in the town mail drop box. The residents do not want the statements to be read aloud at the public hearing. We just want them placed in the record. So that concludes that cover letter. And now we will move on to the letters that have been submitted. Begin with the first one that was asked to be read into the record. And this was submitted on behalf of Jean and Suzanne Kimura of 4029 Windsor Drive. It reads, while we support the development of the River Road property known as Kelts Farm, we remain strongly opposed to extending Windsor Drive to River Road with or without a quote unquote crash gate. Windsor Drive currently gets a great deal of traffic, often traveling over the town speed limit. It does not make sense for the town board to create more traffic problems and then expect a future board to try to deal with the consequences. At the heart of the Niskuna's comprehensive plan is the statement that, quote, new development should not compromise the integrity of the surrounding neighborhoods, unquote. We feel that extending the roadway would do exactly that. A through connection of the multi-use path would serve the town well and maintain the character of the current neighborhood and enhance the new development on River Road. And that concludes that letter. Second letter was submitted on behalf of Art Pasquariello. Art, I believe you are on the call with us if you would like to read your statement. Arthur Pasquariello, if you are with us, you may read your statement now.
Yes, I'd like to read my statement.
Wonderful, thank you.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. Supervisor Syed and town board members Murphy, McGraw, Perez, Jackwith, McPartland, and Delarada. My name is Art Pasquariello. My wife Lydia and I live at 4016 Windsor Drive. We are proud residents of the town of Niskuna, and we love our home on Windsor Drive. The value of our home in our neighborhood as a whole will be tarnished if the connection of Windsor Drive to River Road is approved. And that is why we have continuously voiced our objection to this project. My comments this evening relate
Yeah, I don't hear him anymore.
provisions.
Arthur, we're having a bit of trouble hearing you. You're fading in and out.
Well, I'm not muted.
Okay, we can hear you
I'm
now.
not muted. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to start with seeker, the State Environmental Quality Review Act, and just to mention that I practiced law in this area for 48 years, and it was primarily real property law. So I was intimately involved with the statutes, which are part of the seeker regulation. And I learned pretty early on that the statutes were strict, complex, and there were no shortcuts. Traffic is a very important factor when having a seeker review. One of the first questions they ask is, will the proposed action result in a substantial increase in traffic levels? If the answer to that question is yes, it obviously leads to a further inquiry. There is a regulation dealing with seeker, with the law, which says that an environmental impact statement, an EIS, which is a much more detailed analysis of environmental issues, is required if there is the possibility of at least one significant adverse environmental impact. The section goes on to set forth criteria for defining an adverse environmental impact. It includes an adverse change in traffic or noise levels, or an effect on the character of a neighborhood. Are those words familiar to you? When applying these state guidelines, it seems clear that the Kelts Farm traffic situation and the resulting harm to the Windsor neighborhood constitute significant environmental impacts that fit the definition described above. Please consider the following, and this is a summary. The traffic study completed by Creighton Manning projects 932 vehicle trips per day on Windsor Drive if this connection is made. And at a 90% diversion rate, there will be 149 additional trips during the morning peak hour and 122 additional trips during the afternoon peak hour. Both vehicle counts per seeker guidelines constitute a need for further traffic study. It's interesting to note that the opinion letters from the town designated engineer and the major consulting firm that was hired by the residents both suggest that the Creighton Manning study be extended to include traffic impacts from other roadways and intersections, to include Knott Street with the effects of the casino, Balltown River Roads, Providence Avenue. Those were never followed up. The planning board used a number of 1,000 vehicle trips per day generated from this connection. Other negative neighborhood factors resulting from a traffic increase involve the loss of home value and neighborhood value, as supported by 2 local appraisal firms and Faye Rispoli, who's a highly experienced real estate agent in the area. Even Creighton Manning, the traffic consultant for the developer, said it must be determined if the travel time benefits will outweigh any perceived impacts to quality of life as it relates to increased traffic through this predominantly residential area. It seems clear that by seeker standards, if you seek to vote this evening and approve the connection, your vote is premature until an EIS is completed and evaluated. And let me just discuss segmentation very briefly. If you vote this evening to approve this connection, but require what I call a barricade until the traffic mitigation is considered in the future, I submit that as a piecemeal and segmented review process, which is generally prohibited by seeker. The reason for this regulation, and I give the number 617.3 of the regulations for seeker, states that if a proposal is broken down into pieces, each piece significant, although the sum of the pieces would be deemed significant and call for further environmental review. The courts of New York State have therefore held that the review of an entire project is required before authorization is granted for a specific proposal. Herein, to delay the further study of the road opening, if you vote for the connection this evening, constitutes the exact form of segmentation prohibited by seeker. Consequently, if your intention is to improve the connection Your vote should be delayed until the complete effects of the opening are presented in an EIS. And let me just make one more comment on seeker. I have reviewed the proposed resolution that is on the agenda for this evening, and it calls for you to issue a negative declaration, which by definition is an action which will have no significant adverse environmental impacts, and seeker comes to an end. Now, we have been on this with you for 5 months, since February of this year, 2020. And during this period of time, you have heard more about traffic volume, property values, and neighborhood character than you've ever cared to learn. And I would respectfully submit to you that if you in good conscience can issue a negative declaration here based on what you know over the past 5 months, it just would seem unbelievable to me and to the residents of Windsor Drive. And next, and I would submit to you that if you issue the negative declaration, it's a shortcut. It's a shortcut. And as I mentioned earlier, seeker does not allow shortcuts. Next, let me go on to a couple sections in the ordinance. One which deals with granting of special use permits. This section states, and it's section 220-60 of the Niskuna Town Ordinance. The section states that in the opinion of the town board, the use to be approved may be required for the preservation of the general character of the neighborhood. As exhibited by the substantial increase in traffic volume, 1,000 vehicles per day, and the loss of property values as supported by the real estate professionals, it's abundantly clear that that criteria of the ordinance cannot be satisfied. The applicant has not met his burden of proof. Next section, 220-28H of the Niskuna Town Ordinance. The approval for average density developments. This section states that it must be determined that such development shall not be detrimental to the health, safety, or general welfare of the persons residing in the vicinity, or injurious to property or improvements within its proximity. It is submitted that the extension of Windsor River will be detrimental to health, safety, and general welfare because the increased traffic volume and the increase in speed, safety concerns, noise pollution, air pollution. The character and sense of neighborhood will also be diminished, which equates to harm to the general welfare of the Windsor residents. Secondly, regarding the injury to property or improvements, the 3 real estate professionals have issued statements attesting to a loss in home values ranging from 10 to 30% if the connection is made. Again, the elements of section 220-28 cannot be met. It is my opinion that if the Windsor connection were to be excluded from this project's application, the applicant would easily meet its approval. With the special use permit and the ADD, including the extension, I think renders it impossible for the applicant to meet his burden of proof and satisfy those criteria. In conclusion, I'm almost done. I would make a request of each of you, and I would ask you to walk a mile in our shoes. I would like you to take your home, place it on Windsor Drive for a short period of time, and consider next the expense, the energy, the time that you spend in buying that home, repairing it, maintaining it, and beautifying it with a nice lawn, shrubbery, and flowers of every nature. You walk across the street, you turn around and you look at your home, you appreciate its beauty, and you feel a sense of content. Somebody comes along next and says, hey, neighbor, we're going to bring 1,000 more by your house every day. 1,000 more cars. Really? You then are able to move your house back to its original location. You are then free of the traffic problem and the neighborhood problems. We on Windsor Drive will continue to have them. Please consider that thought in the back of your mind when you vote later this evening. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. Okay, we next have a letter that was asked to be read into the record. It is from Lisa and Brad Bodmer of 200 Brittany Place. And they write, Dear board members and planning board, we are writing to you to express our feelings as to why Windsor Drive should not be a cut through to River Road. We have lived in this community for over 26 years. We first lived on 21 Chestnut Lane and then moved to 200 Brittany Place. Where I live currently on Brittany Place, we have a nice quiet street. One concern about cutting the street through is that it will cause more traffic to turn onto Brittany Place from Fox Hollow to get to Windsor or to get to other places in our subdivision. The traffic on Fox Hollow Road, which we live on the corner of, is extremely high. During the school year, when the buses are running and people are driving to the high school, the street becomes a highway during school times and regular traffic hours. The only quiet streets in my neighborhood are Brittany Place and Pheasant Ridge. Windsor Road also becomes crazy during traffic hours and school times, but luckily there is a bike path. If Windsor Road is the cut through to River Road, it will be a dangerous road with traffic on it all the time. Who would use this road who doesn't now? Anyone trying to get to the hospital, Union Street, Schenectady High, the casino, any restaurant, Schenectady, basically anyone trying to get to Schenectady. Anyone commuting to Route 9 in Latham from Schenectady, anyone commuting to Schenectady from the Sparrowbush Road, Latham area, not to mention the commuting traffic from GE and Capel. I do not like to think about it, definitely not what we want going through our neighborhood. Right now, there are plenty of other ways to get around our part of Niskuna, and because none of these ways are as direct, the town probably gets an equal distribution of traffic on these other routes. River to Riverdale, River to Linwood, River to Menlo Park, and River to Van Antwerp. None of these ways are horribly overburdened and mostly traveled by people who live on or near those streets in our town. If you cut through Windsor, much of the traffic will opt for the Windsor route because it is straight and direct. The report the town has done gave a range of up to 900 new cars a day. Pretty crazy. That's way too many cars. The speed on Windsor is already too fast. Mostly, I have noticed that the speed comes from people turning onto Windsor from Briar Ridge. They have the entire length of the road and no reason to go slow. It gets them where they want to go fast. If you cut Windsor through, that increases the length of the road they can speed over. There goes our neighborhood. Also, there will be even more traffic because of the new subdivision that is supposedly going in there on River Road, which if not approved, I would ask you to vote no on allowing that to be built. Please do not make a deal with the builder. Remember, he will do anything to get his lots approved for what he wants to build. It is visual that we think about how this will affect our neighborhood, and since it will not affect it in a positive way, it should not be done. Just because an obsolete town plan had planned to connect River Road to a future Windsor Road extension does not mean a once good idea on paper has not changed to be a bad idea in reality. In the past, all the beautiful homes with all the lovely families did not exist, and Niskuna was a smaller town with a smaller town population and less people in general living outside of town. This made it easier for anyone from any other town to pass through the Niskuna neighborhood on their way to other places, will only hurt the value of homes in Niskuna. Also, dead ends and cul-de-sacs raise property values. We have many of these in our town, and it has never bothered the connectivity of the town. All these houses have their property value raised because the only traffic going by them is local, and that is the way it should stay. If you make the cut through, many more cars will use Windsor as a shortcut, and they will not be from our town. This will overall lower the real estate value of all the beautiful houses in that neighborhood, and it could be between 30 to 50% lower. If it was 30% and the homeowner pays approximately $20,000 in property tax, it is a $6,000 loss of revenue by the town per year per house. If it affects 46 homes, that's $276,000 per year in 10 years. That is a loss to the town of $2,760,000. The town will have gained nothing from the cut through, but instead will lose tax revenue. With the last crazy 4 to 5 months that we've had with COVID-19, and with New York State having to cut tax budgets because of the debt it occurred over COVID-19, it definitely would be the wisest thing for the Niskuna Town Board to say no to the cut through of Windsor all the way to River Road and maintain the current property values of these homes. Our neighborhood that is affected also pays quite a bit of taxes, and we all vote. This is something none of us want. We would greatly appreciate your support with not allowing the cut through. Please do not make any street there, absolutely no street with cement barricades. Could that be any uglier? Please leave the wooded area alone and keep our neighborhood as quiet as it can be, which is not that quiet because we are already a main way to get to the high school and town, but at least it is just our town using it now. I greatly thank you for your time to read this and hope that you will support us by voting no for the cut through of Windsor Road to River Road. That concludes that letter. Our next letter was submitted by Bill and Linda Ward. Bill or Linda, if you're on the call with us, you may read your letter into the record. And last call, Bill or Linda Ward, if you would like to read your letter into the record, you could do so now. Okay, I will read their letter into the record. Bill and Linda Ward of 4028 Windsor Drive. They write, we would like to express once again our opposition to a proposed cut through of Windsor Drive to River Road. To make Windsor Drive a through street to River Road would cause a significant increase in traffic on Windsor Drive, a decrease in safety for all who live on Windsor Drive, particularly children, and a significant change in the quality of life and neighborhood serenity that we all now experience. The addition of the bike trail has been a welcome addition over the years, and the extension of this to River Road would pose no difficulty. However, opening up the road to traffic will be problematic. We have lived on Windsor Drive for 23 years. We have noticed an increase in traffic over the years with no attempts by the town to decrease speed on the road. We do not want this to continue to increase for the safety and concern for all of us who live here. Please do not vote to approve the approval of the extension of Windsor Drive to River Road. That concludes that letter. Next letter was submitted on behalf of Bernardo and Daniela Bagali. I believe they're on the call with us.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
We can.
Great. Thank you for allowing me to comment and taking the time to listen. I understand that you have all been following this situation very closely, and we appreciate that. I would like to begin by stating, as someone who manages risk every day and makes decisions based on risk versus reward, this by far has been the most troubling concept for me. I don't understand the reward or benefit to approving the special use permit for an average density development, Heltz Farm, with a vehicular connection of any kind versus approval with a multi-use path only. The amount of risk to our neighborhood as well as the residents of the town that use the multi-use path on Windsor is significant. The risks have been discussed at length. Safety concerns both for the residents on the street and those using the multi-use path, decrease in property values, and an adverse change in the character of the Windsor neighborhood. What are the quantifiable benefits? There's been general conversation regarding connectivity and benefits to other people in other neighborhoods. Quite frankly, if there was such a substantial benefit to be derived from this project, you would have many people coming forward in favor of this cut through, and this is just not the case. I have watched many committee planning and town board meetings during this process and realize when something really matters to people, they will come forward. The cut through does not significantly enhance or positively change the quality of life for the residents of this town. It only hurts those that live near it. Additionally, it could unnecessarily cost the taxpayers of Niskuna, given any approvals received along the way from the committees all indicated extensive traffic mitigation would be necessary. The multi-use path in and of itself accomplishes the goals set forth regarding connectivity and inclusion. The street does not create inclusion. A street in many instances is just a street. A decrease in values of our homes would unfairly hurt the residents. Professionals in the industry believe that there is considerable downside potential. Two independent appraisers indicated our property values would be adversely impacted. These opinions are provided by professionals who have been in residential lending for decades. They estimate anywhere from 10 to 34% reduction in value. They are not technical appraisals, but they're professional market opinions indicating what would and could easily happen to our values. As an executive of a large residential lending organization, I deal with property values every day and have done so for more than 15 years. Let me explain that an appraisal is only able to determine a value based on sales directly in the area or on the street that are comparable. Given Windsor Drive is currently not a cut-through road, it is not possible to provide an actual appraisal. It is possible to provide a paired sales analysis. The appraiser reviewed a sold home located on a quiet street and then found a very similar home that sold around the same time period on a busy street and compared the sales prices. For example, a home sold on Knott compared to a similar home that sold on Dean. The proximity of these two homes allows the appraiser to provide an illustration of how traffic adversely impacts value, as that is the only difference. This method illustrates anywhere from a 10 to 34% decrease in sales price between the two homes. The first appraiser included comments that he had conferred with 2 additional appraisers and 3 local real estate agents, and they all concurred that it would be detrimental to value. The second appraiser indicated that this road extension would interfere with the definition of quiet enjoyment. He states this interference would cause a negative impact on the market value for not only for those on Windsor Drive, but also for those homeowners in the Kelts Farm subdivision. I know there has been much discussion of an emergency crash gate and where it would be located. The emergency gate should not be a viable option, as it will likely result in the future opening of the road. This would bring every issue we have painstakingly laid out right back to the forefront. There are more than 20 cul-de-sacs in the town of Niskuna that are greater than 500 feet in length and have only one entrance exit. There is ample precedent set, and Kelts Farm could be the same. All of my experiences have shown that living on a quiet street, especially one that is close to many amenities, is very desirable. Please do not take that away from the Kelts neighborhood. There are 4 emergency access gates in the town. Based upon my discussion with the fire chief, none of which up to this point have been needed during an emergency. It is also worth mentioning that we are unable to find a time historically where a development that had a single ingress-egress was blocked during an emergency. The reason for this distills down to probability. The likelihood of 2 probability events happening low probability events, happening simultaneously, an emergency and an entrance being blocked, is insignificantly low. In conclusion, we respectfully request that you not approve something that so many of us know will have a negative impact, not only on those of us who live on and near Windsor, but additionally to the new Kelts Farm neighborhood. Please consider putting forth a plan that contains a multi-use path only, with no vehicular or emergency access. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak this evening.
Thank you so much. We're going to move on to our next letter submitted. This is a statement submitted by Thomas Hodgkins. Is Thomas on the line with us to read your statement into the record? And second call on Thomas Hodgkins to read your statement into the record. All right, I will read the statement. This is a statement by Thomas Hodgkins of Rosendale Road for the public hearing for a special use permit for an average density development at 2538 River Road. Back when Niskuna's developers had not cleared most of the wilderness for wildflower and insect-free lawns and their accompanying oversized carbon-belching homes, a bunch of us used to ride our bikes to the high school every day from the Rosendale neighborhoods. The route took every shortcut available. We cut through the Van Antwerp apartment complex and through the woods behind the Grand Union to get to class. We had one shortcut in the neighborhood that saved us over half a mile of pedaling, but it went through yards. People on the rougher side of the cut through let the path wear, but the man that lived on Rao would come out and howl at us as we whizzed by sometimes. The collective intelligence of our little bike gang was to ignore him because it was such a perfect route. Years later, the town caught on to our efficient cut through and paved it. We thereafter called it Whammer Extension. This is why I fully support a road connecting the proposed Kelts Farm subdivision and Windsor Drive. People need safe and efficient bike, walking, and vehicular routes to their destinations. However, I do not support handing over another 14 acres of what is now and has been for decades a wilderness refuge for birds, insects, mammals, and a wide variety of plants to developers for the construction of inefficient and sterile homes. It is counterintuitive to the 20th century mind saturated in the intoxicating visions of self-centered capitalism and political party loyalty, but the value of the land will be maximized for all people and all sentient beings if this land is left for the wilderness. This planet has been experiencing the beginning of a vast interconnected interspecies extinction event over the past few decades. Last year, the United Nations Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services released a report on this extinction event. The UN noted that, quote, nature is declining globally at rates unprecedented in human history, and the rate of species extinctions is accelerating, with grave impacts on people around the world now likely, unquote. They also stated that we need, quote unquote, transformative change to slow and eventually stabilize our planet's ecosystems. Unfortunately, the knowledge of the planet's scientists has yet to reach Niskuna's development policies. We continue to enable the destruction of wilderness for oversized residences that are responsible for emitting more carbon and being more destructive to the planet than perhaps 10 times the average global home. A freeze on development and the creation of more wilderness preserves would be a small step towards ending this great extinction event. Act with love towards all the sentient beings on our planet by opposing the Couch Farm development. That concludes that letter. Our next letter was submitted by Rajib and Soma. I believe Rajib and Soma are on this call. If you'd like to read your letter into the record.
Hi, Supervisor Said and the town board members. My name is Rajib Data. My wife Soma Day and I live at 4101 Windsor Drive, located next to the Couch Farm. And over the last 4 months, we have repeatedly voiced our concerns and opposition to the Windsor Drive River Road cut through, with or without the crash gate, and our support to the extension of the multi-use bike path. A lot has already been said and discussed about the negative impacts of the cut through to the community. I just want to emphasize that the decisions taken so far by the planning board and the other committees is not data driven. The only information that the committees worked with was a traffic report, which has been universally agreed to be incomplete based on not only our opinions, but the expert opinions of independent consultants, traffic consultants. During the planning board meetings, as well as in the resolution, it has been mentioned that the Conservation Advisory Council and the Complete Streets Committee both have recommended the cut through, CSE with a negative declaration of traffic mitigation. Now, even with the incomplete data, most of the planning board members agreed that the additional traffic is too high. However, their position has been to fulfill a dated comprehensive plan at the expense of ruining the character of the neighborhood. A major reason cited by the CSE for favoring the cut through is that a reduction of about 0.5 miles will reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We have repeatedly shown that this is totally incorrect. It will only divert traffic and pollution to the level of additional 1,300 pounds of carbon dioxide per day from a neighborhood. The reasons provided for CSC approval were also proven to be incorrect based on the data we have provided on traffic volume and devaluation of our home prices. Now, while the role of EDAC would be to analyze a proposal objectively and critically and to bring forth any limitations or deficits that are omitted by other committees, they simply aided its advancement, again, without enough information and data. So in conclusion, the only solution that is acceptable to us is the extension of the bike path. It is environmentally friendly, will not the characteristics of our neighborhood while increasing the connectivity to Blackney Park and welcomed by all of us. We have now spent countless hours studying, researching, and gathering data that speak volumes against the cut-through. Building the road and installing a crash gate or emergency access at River Road with an attempt to open it up later requires a thorough environmental impact study to be conducted before the project is approved, since it will significantly alter the character of the neighborhood. So as the members of the town board vote tonight, we hope that the voices of this community who will live through your decision as long as they live in this neighborhood is heard. So we urge that you approve the development with only the provision of the bike path. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're going to move on to our next letter. This letter is from Dimple Gussie. Dimple, I believe you are on the call with us this evening. If you would like to read your statement into the record.
Hi, are you able to hear me?
We can.
Dear Supervisor Syed and members of the town board, I first would like to take this opportunity to thank you for reading all our comments very patiently at last town board meeting. And I do appreciate all the town board members patiently listening to our concerns and arguments. My name is Dimple Gussie. My husband Pawan and I live at 4076 Windsor Drive. We appreciate opportunity for sharing our concerns about Windsor Road extension during the privilege of floor today. Over past 4 months, we have heard argument from the planning board that the road connection was always in the comprehensive plan since 1989. Reviewing information from old archives makes us wonder, how does an option conceived 30 years ago still hold merit in year 2020? As we are all aware, a lot has changed globally and locally during past 30 years. Niskuna has changed from predominantly a farm area to a developed suburban area. Many new commercial sites have opened up, like ShopRite Plaza, Rivers Casino, Mohawk Commons, new luxury apartments across ShopRite. Over past 30 years, Windsor Drive has also had its share of changes. With completion of phases of Windsor Estates, it has 40 homes abutting either side of the road, with most of the households having school-age children. We are all aware of the importance of flexibility in our lives based on science, evidence, and data. Comprehensive plan similarly has to be assessed from time to time to make relevant changes based on facts. Our review of comprehensive plan of 2013, including the pages listed by planning board in their June 22nd decision, support our position of only a multi-use path and no road connection. To this, I will list a few paragraphs of comprehensive plan of 2013. Page 1, paragraph 1, quote, finally, the comprehensive plan represents a snapshot of the town at a particular time and should not be viewed as a static, but rather as a dynamic policy instrument to be modified as needed to reflect changing conditions, end quote. Page 5, paragraph 2, quote, preservation of community character not only has wide support from residents, its preservation makes economic sense, as quality of life is one of the things that most employers are looking for when relocating a business operation. Page 5, paragraph 5, quote, future additions and improvements to transportation system should provide a balance of connectivity options that reflect the increasing importance of pedestrian and bike transportation modes. In addition, future transportation system improvements should minimize impacts to existing neighborhoods, end quote. Page 21, paragraph 1, quote, as road traffic and speeds increase, the road becomes a barrier, safety becomes a problem, and the sense of neighborhood is lost. Therefore, it's important that Niskuna's plan reflect a transportation system that is not only efficient, but promotes safety and flexibility. It should also respect natural topography, residential features, and present an attractive streetscape. Page 38, paragraph 2, quote, once viewed as primarily for recreation, use of multi-use path are now recognized as important non-motorized vehicular links connecting residents with work, school, and shopping, end quote. My second concern is traffic related that once again stems from changes in past 30 years. According to Pew Research, 96% of Americans own a cell phone, up from 35% in 2011. 90% of smartphone owners use phones to get their directions. Given those facts about GPS use, Windsor Drive road connection, as traffic study indicated, will result in approximately additional 1,000 cars a day. That number is grossly underestimated as traffic study was incomplete. We have approximately 40 children living on Windsor Drive, and approximately 70% of them are elementary school kids. In 2018, according to U.S. Department of Transportation, around 6,000 pedestrians were killed in U.S. by automobiles, and 80% of those fatalities occurred in urban areas. 19% of pedestrians were children aged 14 or younger. Turning a dead-end street into a cut-through road causes traffic volume to increase manyfold, along with average vehicular speed, the result of which is increase in both pedestrian and cyclist accidents. Children between ages of 5 and 9 are particularly at risk of traffic-related injury. Keeping these evidence-based facts in mind, it is our hope that town board members will make their decision based not on historical preference, but based on facts and science that we have shared. Connectivity is a beautiful thing and should not be extrapolated to a road connection. Pedestrian and bike connectivity is 21st century urban planning concept. New concept in planning is not how we can send more cars through this road, but how can we send more people biking and walking down the street. This is in sync with CDC goal of promoting physical and mental health by encouraging healthy behaviors. Multi-use path alone without the road connection accomplishes all our shared goals listed below. Number 1, safety of our current and future residents. Number 2, saving community character. Number 3, maintaining property values on Windsor Drive. Number 4, promoting public health by encouraging healthy behaviors like biking and walking. Number 5, saving environment, less carbon footprint. And number 6, saving public tax dollars. There's no need for additional traffic or environmental impact study. And then implementing calming measures and maintaining the road. I'm concluding my statement with a table comparing the benefits of multi-use path only versus the risks associated with the Windsor Drive cut-through that I have shared with the town board members earlier. The road connection has no benefit whatsoever, but will certainly jeopardize health and safety of our neighborhood environment. Environment, as described by Institute of Transportation Engineers Journal, is where residents can live, work, and move about in freedom from hazards of motor traffic. As our elected officials, it is our sincere hope you will vote no to the road connection and approve the multi-use path while considering voting for Kells Farm subdivision. Thank you for your time and understanding.
Thank you so much. We're going to move on to our next statement that was submitted. Statement was submitted by Dan Polishuk. Is Dan Polishuk on the line with us to read your statement into the record? And once again, I will ask that Dan Polishuk reads the statement into the letter if he is on the line tonight. Okay, I will read Dan's statement. It reads, Dear Town Board and Supervisor Syed, I'm writing to oppose the town's plan to extend Windsor Drive into River Road as part of Mr. Bezoin's residential construction project. I believe this will create multiple problems, including significantly increasing traffic in our neighborhood, devalue our homes, and decrease both safety in our neighborhood, as well as negatively impact the local environment. A recent study demonstrated a 25% increase to almost a 30% increase in Windsor Drive traffic will amount to almost 8,000 extra cars per day. Our home values are estimated to go down by a low of 10% to a high of 30%. As our assessed value goes down by 30%, so will the taxed assessment. This will negate any possible future increase in tax revenue that a new development is hoped to achieve. If this plan comes to pass, I and many of my neighbors will be getting a new appraisal. We will not continue to pay over $20,000 in taxes alone for properties that have lost 30% of value through no fault of our own. Neither one of those scenarios are good for the neighborhood, the people living here, or the town. If the town plan is out of touch with the neighborhood needs, it needs to evolve to properly reflect the needs and wishes of the people living on the streets directly affected. In summary, Windsor Drive vehicular extension will bring more danger to the local community by a 30% or more increase in traffic, and our home values will go down and our neighborhood will lose its character. I am against vehicular cut through from Windsor Drive to River Road. That concludes that statement. Our next statement was submitted on behalf of Raul Chapwala. Raul, are you on the line with us tonight?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Okay. So, dear Supervisor Syed and members of the town board, I, Rahul Chokhala, and my wife Florence are residents of 4089 Windsor Drive. We appreciate this opportunity to express our opposition to Resolution 2020-193 concerning development of Kells Farm subdivision with a fully paved connection between Windsor Drive and River Road. If the planning board's wishes were to come true, our coveted residential street may turn into an urban collector road, as warned by Creighton Manning traffic engineer in the attached report that was commissioned by the developer. Report goes on to state, and I'm quoting, the town of Niskuna Planning Board will need to determine if travel time benefits associated with this direct connection will outweigh any perceived impacts to quality of life as it relates to increased traffic through this predominantly residential neighborhood, unquote. The savings in time and distance as a result of this cut through are estimated to be merely 70 seconds and half a mile, respectively. This worrisome prospect understandably generated deep concerns for us and our neighbors. To safeguard our neighborhood from this out-of-the-blue threat, we collectively have invested by now almost 1,700 hours since March. The actual number of hours that this matter has occupied our minds are incalculable. Our goal actually has been quite modest. At the early stage, we resolved some opposition to project itself and united to a counter proposal that we sincerely considered to be a win-win compromise. Develop the proposed neighborhood, connect it with Windsor Drive by means of a multi-purpose path that would also provide residents of Niskuna an environmentally and people-friendly access to the facilities on River Road. Unfortunately, we did not succeed. Moreover, we were never informed of supposed benefits that this cut-through would bring to us over and above a multi-purpose path. In fact, we saw our neighborhood interests consistently undermined, and I'm sorry to say, at least in one instance, misrepresented. To illustrate the extent of our unjustified setbacks that we have endured, I would like to single out one particular sequence of occurrences, which is on the record. So during May 11th Planning Board's meeting, Mark Nadolny, traffic expert from CME, which is Creighton Manning, summarized traffic evaluation, estimating 90% diversion of the traffic from Van Antwerp into Windsor River Road cut-through. This would mean almost 1,000 additional trips on Windsor. The board members aggressively questioned this 90% diversion estimate and asked the engineer to tabulate the numbers down to 25%. That has some consequences, I'm afraid to say. Next, during the same meeting, Mark clarified that adding non-local destinations such as Schenectady for the automobiles coming from the river up on River Road and vice versa, of course, would have, quoting, exponentially increased cost of the study, unquote. To this, none of the board members raised obvious concern on behalf of us, the residents, that could it be that the scope of study was perhaps compromised due to budgetary constraints? No one asked. The questions came to us that this may be incomplete, but no one from the board asked. So, by the way, in fact, the study leaves out significant additional diversions into the cut-through, as we have presented at the subsequent meeting and authenticated by reputable Macer Consulting. On May 20th, the traffic expert issued a modified report, as was requested by the planning board, which estimated diversion down to 25%. He went on to remove his warning that Windsor could turn into an urban collector road in the same report. something that he had mentioned twice in the original report. So what happens? On May 29th, the planning board utilized 25% diversion number at the CSC certification, claiming as well that our property value will actually go up and that the cut-through is desirable to the residents. Question is, how is one to characterize such representation of our interest? CSC committee, of course, voted unanimously to approve the proposal containing the cut-through. Damage done, the modified traffic report was curiously withdrawn and replaced back with the original report in the planning board's agenda package of 22nd of June, during which the board, of course, unanimously approved the resolution. Why were the reports switched back after the facts, one wonders. Understandably, our confidence in the process got steadily chipped away as the plan continued its unimpeded journey, arriving for your consideration today. From the start, such an outcome was a foregone conclusion. To repeat what one of my neighbor has perfectly articulated, and I'm quoting, the plan was being pushed through various committees to create a streamlined approval process without any real data and with sole objective to increase connectivity without furnishing any quantified benefits, unquote. We therefore sincerely ask the town board to intervene at this critical juncture and spare Windsor neighborhood from this hanging sword that this proposal's resolution is to us. Lastly, but by no means less importantly, I would like to request as follows. Please look into the concerns that we have systematically raised. In particularly, and with all due respect, we have found that the approval process to be far from robust and is quite vulnerable. Monumental efforts has gone into safeguarding our limited neighborhood interest. But if you were to find some merit in the feedback that we have provided, some greater good can emerge out of this. Our hope is that the future resident stakeholders, such as us, will be spared the strain that we have endured over past several months. That said, we thank you very much for your patience, Rahul and Florence.
Thank you so much. We have our next letter that was submitted on behalf of Farzana and Zain Syed. Are Farzana or Zain on the call with us? And last call on Farzana or Zain Syed. I will read their statement into the record. I'm sending this email to express my concerns regarding the extension project of Windsor Drive to River Road and to oppose this project due to its harmful effects on our neighborhood. Our reasons to oppose include 1, safety concerns. Windsor Drive is a residential neighborhood and allows us to safely bike and walk with our kids and pets. However, speeding does become an issue here, even though the posted speed limit is 30 miles per hour. Our concern is that if the extension is made, it will result in more traffic and speeding issues. Number 2, property value. It will go down due to the lack of road and sidewalk safety due to increased traffic speeding. And number 3, loss of peacefulness of the neighborhood due to higher volume and increased noise of traffic. That concludes that statement. We have our next statement submitted by Javed and Roxana Safi. Are you on the line with us tonight? Second call, Javed or Roxana Safi, if you would like to read your statement into the record. I will read their statement into the record. Honorable Supervisor and members of the Town Board, we are writing to express our support along with our neighbors that the proposed Windsor Drive cut through to River Road along with the crash gate as advised by the Town Planning Board not be constructed. As you all have heard over the past several months, there have been numerous discussions and studies done on the feasibility of the cut through. What is surprising to us is that after all the data was reviewed, which showed a negative impact on the environment and safety on the street, that each of the town's committees would ignore this and advise that it be constructed. It really makes us wonder why they are willing to compromise the safety of residents and all those who walk on the street for no benefit. We urge Supervisor Syed and the town board members to consider and vote for the alternative plan, which allows for connectivity of the hike bike trail, but no road connection to River Road. This will preserve the safety and environment, not only for the residents of Windsor Drive, but also those who will reside in the new Kelts Farm development. Thank you for the privilege of the floor. That concludes that statement. The next statement is submitted by Scott Soule of 4080 Windsor Drive. Scott requested that I read this statement into the record. Well, I'm sorry, he requested that he be called on. So Scott Soule, are you here? So it's second call for Scott or Amy Soule to read your statement into the record. I will read their statement into the record. My name is Scott Soule, and my wife Amy and I live at 4080 Windsor Drive with our 3 children. Charlotte is 16 and a new driver, James is 14, and Thomas is 11. We are an active family and walk and bike frequently through our neighborhood. We have lived in our home since 2011, and traffic on the street has always been problematic. It is well known to everyone that there are simply too many cars that drive too fast, and the town has never been able to adequately resolve the speed and safety issues with the road. Adding 1,000 daily trips to an already dangerous corridor will undoubtedly have terrible and possibly tragic results. The safety of the residents is paramount. Imagine the consequences of even a minor accident whereby a driver hits a pedestrian or a cyclist. Do you want the responsibility for that catastrophe weighing on your conscience? I respectfully urge the town board members to reject the connection of Windsor Drive to River Road. Thank you for your time and attention. Our next letter was submitted by Matthew and Jennifer Lean of 221 Brittany Place. Do we have Matthew or Jennifer on the line with us tonight to read their statement into the record? And second call, Matthew or Jennifer, if you're on the line, you can read your statement into the record. I will read their statement into the record. I am writing to express concern and opposition to Resolution 2020-193 regarding the Kelts Farm development and in particular the Windsor Drive extension. I'm opposed to the Windsor Drive extension or any development that would connect Windsor Drive to River Road for vehicular access for reasons expressed in my privilege of the floor comments on June 30th of 2020 and echoed by my neighbors. Additionally, I am writing in opposition to an average density development which is outside of the nature and character of the Windsor Estates neighborhood, which is an R1 zone community within the town of Niskuna. All other items aside, including the omission, intentionally or not, of traffic analysis and property valuation reports, which by their omission to the Complete Streets Committee may have influenced a diametrically opposed decision to the facts presented in these reports. I do have grave concerns regarding the actions the planning board may take if this resolution is rejected. I encourage you to watch the following video of the planning board meeting on 2/24, which I do not believe the town board was in attendance for. At that meeting, the planning board encouraged the developer, who did not want to build a connection, to add the connection against his interests, which were not selfish in nature. His pushback was because he knew it was not wanted by his neighbors or the community. In fact, the developer told the planning board that if they required it, he would revert back to an R1 development, which was his initial plan. At that point, the planning board told him that if he brought it back as an R1 development, they would require him to do the connection and that they would approve it and it would not be sent to the town board for review, with no mention that any further evaluation or approvals would be required for such a material modification of traffic flows in our community. I find it interesting that the planning board would suggest this course of action without noting that an appropriate seeker may need to be done. Nevertheless, reluctantly, the developer pushed through with the planning board's recommendation in fear that they would force a connection, and his only method of ensuring that the connection has a chance of not being completed would be to move forward with an average density development, which would require a variance from the town board. I'm writing to express my objection with both the average density development in lieu of an R1 development and any vehicular connection between Windsor Drive and River Road. Unfortunately, it seems that the town board can only choose between both of these, and our larger concern is the traffic volume and safety concerns for our children, along with the material modification of the character of the neighborhood if the vehicular connection is made. There is a way for the town board to reject the average density development with a strong condition that no vehicular connection be made and that the development maintain R1 zoning. That would be ideal. If this is not possible, I encourage the town board to approve the average density development with a strong condition that no vehicular access or preparations for future vehicular access be permitted. That concludes that public statement. Next public statement submitted by Catherine and Berkeley Davis of 4020 Windsor Drive. Catherine or Berkeley, are you on the line with us? And last call, Catherine or Berkeley Davis, if you're on the line with us, you can read your statement into the record. I will read your statement into the record. The average density development for the Kelts Farm area should not be approved with a vehicular connection between Windsor Drive and River Road. While increasing connectivity within a community may be a laudable goal, in this case, the potential benefit to the community does not outweigh the detriment to the residents of Windsor Drive. Traffic studies predict the cut-through would increase traffic volume by an additional 1,000 cars per day on a street that already has between 3,000 and 4,000 cars per day. This would decrease safety and property values, making Windsor Drive a less desirable place to live. The town planning board acknowledges the traffic calming measures would be required and that it would cost so much to implement that a crash gate should be installed to delay opening of the connector until the town has funds to complete the project. In reality, this project makes no sense at all. A direct connection between Balltown Road and River Road leading to the parks already exists and is used daily by residents of the community with no problems. Residents of the new development will have direct access to River Road, the parks, and the rest of Niskuna via River Road, Van Antwerp Road, and Balltown Road. There is no need to make a cut through via Windsor Drive in order to save a minute or two of travel time. In fact, the required traffic calming measures to slow traffic and decrease traffic volume along Windsor Drive would negate any benefit in transit time. Therefore, there is no point in creating a vehicular connection between Windsor Drive and River Road. A multi-use path would provide adequate connectivity between the residential areas and the parks without detriment to the residents of Windsor Drive. Sincerely submitted by Catherine Berkeley Davis of 4020 Windsor Drive. Our next letter was submitted by John Mastraccio of 212 Brittany Place. Is John on the line with us to read his statement into the record? And second call, if Mr. Mastraccio would like to read his statement into the record, you could do so now. I will read his statement into the record. My name is John Mastraccio and I live at 212 Brittany Place near the lower end of Windsor Drive and close to the proposed Kelts Farm development. I would like to express my opposition to the cut through from Windsor Drive to River Road and any plans to install a temporary crash gate that could be removed to allow for cut through in the future. The increased traffic of such a cut through would increase the risk to safety of the many children that live in the neighborhood, would change the neighborhood's character, and would negatively impact home property values. I support the plan that connects the roadways in the Kelts Farm development directly to River Road, but not to Windsor Drive, and fully support the plan that extends the walking path from Windsor Drive through the planned new development to more easily access Blatnick Park and the River Road walking path. This alternative is a reasonable compromise to the many alternatives that the planning board has considered over the past several months, and is one that achieves a level of connectivity for the new development in our neighborhood that is desired by the town, while maintaining the current level of safety for pedestrians and our children, preserving the character of the neighborhood and preventing the need for more existing traffic calming measures. This truly is a compromise and achieves the best balance of all of the considerations and objectives. Thank you for your consideration. That concludes that statement. Our next statement was requested to be read into the record. Submitted by Drew, Melissa, Aiden, and Griffin Clark. As residents of Windsor Drive, we strongly oppose a cut-through and/or a crash gate to connect the development to our neighborhood. Out of respect for your time in this process, we will not rehash the points already made on record by our neighbors and professional consultants, but please know and we fully agree with all of them. We do support the Kelts Farm development being connected to Windsor Drive via a walking path only. That concludes that statement. Our next statement was submitted by Tina Dell, who asked that it be read into the record. And Tina Dell lives on 4053 Windsor Drive. She writes, "Thank you for organizing the discussion last night. I did have one more potential safety issue I wanted to raise, but I did not want to extend last night's meeting any further. Being a parent of high school age children, I wanted to voice a concern related to our older children. During drop off and pickup at the high school, it is extremely difficult to navigate the left turn on a Knott Street East. The traffic flow that already exists on Knott Street East connecting to Windsor makes it very challenging to safely enter this intersection. There is an additional 900 plus cars on this route. It will create a major safety issue for anyone attempting this turn. More importantly, the board must remember that a good percentage of the drivers using this intersection may be relatively rookie drivers, i.e. juniors. Between their impatience and inexperience, these students will be at risk. Personally, I fear for the accidents that will potentially occur with this increased flow of traffic. Thank you for the time and review of my concern." That concludes that statement. Next statement was asked to be read into the record by Helena and Ali Mirza. They write, "Dear Town Supervisor and board members, please consider only the connection of the multi-use path from Windsor Drive to River Road and not a vehicular roadway now or at any time. Your consideration of all previous residents' comments since March is appreciated and hopefully have guided you in your decision." Includes that public statement. Our next public statement was requested to be read by Connie or Paul Trigger. Is Connie or Paul Trigger on the line with us?
Hi, we're here.
Wonderful.
I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to speak and also to say thank you to Laura and other town board members for being so responsive when we contacted them with questions. For the last 4 months, this is my husband Paul and I are at 4072 Windsor Drive. For the past 4 months, the prospect of a cut through being made from Windsor Drive to River Road has churned its way through committee after committee, board after board, consuming the energies of not only town leaders, but of residents up and down Windsor Drive and its side streets. We have used this time to do the work needed to ask not emotional, but educated questions. Members of the resident group have examined traffic studies and reviews of traffic studies. We've looked up codes and regulations and contacted and met with town officials. We've looked at maps and satellite images, counted cul-de-sacs and timed paths of travel between town offices, fire stations, schools, and shopping areas. We've read and reread the comprehensive plan. A home has been appraised by multiple professionals to determine how its value would change with the projected increase in traffic. 40 families came together to retain an attorney to help us understand the process and learn about issues with the connection that we had been unaware of. We've learned about environmental impact statements, segmented approvals, and lead agencies. Between us, we've read agendas, minutes, and materials for, and watched videos of months worth of meetings, participating in many of them. And as we watched or read about those meetings, it struck us that, although very well intentioned, in several cases, the committee members seemed either in over their heads voting on the issue or had made uninformed assumptions about the impact that a cut through would have. In others, we sensed that there was an agenda behind the comments that were expressed and the decisions that were made. It has been acknowledged that a significant increase in traffic would result from a cut through. Professional property appraisers and a prominent local realtor confirmed that the increase would negatively impact property values. It was recognized that a speeding problem already exists on Windsor Drive and that adding more traffic to the area could intensify the problem. But despite knowing all this, in the end, the planning board sent to you a recommendation for a fully paved connection with a crash gate. And despite acknowledging that there are contradictions in the comprehensive plan regarding this configuration, it was used as the primary rationale for a connection. And while the need for traffic mitigation was stated, it came without a plan for who would do it, how, where, or when it would be done, or most importantly, who would pay for it. We've talked before about the condescending tone that was used by several planning board members about residents during some of the meetings. But even more dismaying to me was seeing how the source of information that confirmed our traffic concerns, the report accompanying the results of the traffic study done by Creighton Manning, was modified after being presented to the planning board. They disputed the paths that the professional traffic engineer projected people would take if the cut-through were made, citing their own personal driving preferences. The percentage of cars diverted from River Road, 90%, seemed high to them, so they asked for it to be expressed in ranges instead. The terminology went from 90% diversion to worst case 90% diversion. We later learned that the scope of the traffic analysis was insufficient. In the end, after all the reading and writing and researching and watching and seeing the rubber stamps add up, I'm left with the question, why? Why create a connection? And I word the question that way because it was very clear that the goal of some, if not all of the planning board members, is to complete the connection with the crash gate as a temporary fixture to mollify the residents. The sketch plan they provided doesn't even show the gate. Why, if there are already multiple efficient paths of travel from River Road to Knott, Van Antwerp, and Balltown roads for residents as well as emergency responders, is a connection necessary? Why, if the developer said he doesn't want a connection, not only force one on him, but make him pay for an EIS, which would be required if the project has a connection with full vehicular access to avoid illegal segmentation under seeker? Why turn what could be a quiet new neighborhood in a wooded setting, self-contained yet with good access to town amenities, into a thoroughfare traveled by thousands of cars a day down a street probably less than 1,000 feet long? Why sacrifice the character of an established neighborhood by unnecessarily connecting it to a road used by over 9,000 vehicles a day with an 85th percentile speed of 50 miles per hour? Why sacrifice the safety of Windsor Drive residents and those using that street and the multi-use path by creating the opportunity for mapping apps to redirect drivers to it if the rationales for doing so don't hold up? And I haven't been able to figure out the answers to these questions. The planning board's recommendation was described as a compromise between the residents and the comprehensive plan. The introduction to the plan states that it represents a snapshot of the town at a particular time and should not be viewed as a static, but rather as a dynamic policy instrument to be modified as needed to reflect changing conditions. The Windsor Drive area and its surroundings have changed since that plan was last updated. Its residents deserve more than a compromise with an outdated plan. So what would be the best option? The extension of the multi-use path to River Road is something that everyone can get behind. It will provide a link to Blatnick Park for walkers and bikers, but it won't sacrifice the safety or character of the neighborhoods on either side of it. Environmental studies would not need to be done, and the town wouldn't have to bear the financial burden of additional traffic studies and costly mitigation. We would like to respectfully request that you approve the special use permit, but with the conditions that the entrance to the Kelts Farm development be on River Road and that there be only a multi-use path connection to Windsor Drive. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Our next public statement was submitted by Faye Falvo Rispoli. Faye, are you on the line with us to read your statement into the record? Faye, if you are on the line, you are welcome to read your statement into the record. Okay, I will read her statement into the record. My name is Faye Falvo Rispoli, and I live at 2509 Angelina Drive. I know that I've written to you before, but I feel so strongly about this matter that I felt compelled to again communicate with you. I'm writing to you to express my concerns regarding the proposed connection of Windsor Drive to River Road. I'm a real estate agent with Remax Solutions. I've been involved in the local real estate business for more than 40 years, and I've been personally involved in hundreds of purchases and sales in the town of Niskuna during my career. I know the Niskuna real estate market very well. It is my professional opinion that the value of homes on Windsor Drive will be negatively impacted by this roadway connection. I've read the projections that the connection will result in an additional 1,000 vehicle trips per day on Windsor Drive to be added to the current total of approximately 3,650 vehicle trips per day. Such a significant change in traffic volume will discourage prospective buyers, especially families with young children, from wanting to live on Windsor. This more constant traffic flow will create safety issues, noise, and it will damage the neighborhood character of Windsor Drive. I know that I would strongly encourage all prospective clients to perform their due diligence related to safety and traffic volume prior to purchasing a home on Windsor Drive. It is my opinion, with more than 40 years of real estate experience, that there would be a 10% to 15% loss in property values because of the connection. That is substantial. I would therefore request that the roadway connection be denied. Respectfully, Faye Falvo Rispoli, neighbor, longtime Niskuna resident, and broker associate with Remax Solutions. Our next letter was submitted by Sonia and Raj Shetty. Are Sonia and Raj on the line with us tonight to read their statement into the record? And last call for Sonia or Raj. If you'd like to read your statement into the record, you could do so now. I will read their statement into the record. Thank you for the opportunity to voice our opinion and concerns on the topic of the Windsor Drive cut-through to River Road. In our many previous letters, we have made it very clear that the Windsor Drive cut-through will have a very significant negative impact not only on the character of the neighborhood, but also on the health and safety of the residents, in addition to lowering the value of the properties. We thought any further extension of the Windsor Drive is impossible due to the presence of the wetlands. This is even clearly stated in your comprehensive plan of 2013. We would like you to please keep this in mind in addition to the negative impacts to the neighborhood when you vote on this project. And our next statement was submitted by John and Rachel Maynard of 4049 Windsor Drive. John or Rachel, if you're on the line with us tonight, you're welcome to read your statement into the record.
Hi, Town Board Supervisor Saeed and Town Board members. Can you hear me? Just want to make sure.
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm just joining you all this evening in regards to Windsor Drive cut through. My wife, daughter, and I live at 4049 Windsor Drive. And I'm pleading with you to not grant access for the Windsor Road to be connected with the emergency access point that would eventually be opened up in the future. Our fellow neighbors and traffic engineers have provided facts that would change Windsor Drive forever. We trust that all of you have read the provided documents from previous meetings which show we oppose this direct cut through. We'd be saddened to see if the project moves forward that the cut through that is established. The future of our society in walking and running and bicycling for health and wellness and not motorized vehicles are really what is something that we're looking for. More instances towards, for the bicycle and running for the town. We have seen several instances how towns across the United States are creating bike and walking paths, not creating motorized vehicle traffic. The traffic on Windsor Drive would grow exponentially and with a full access point for every GPS to directly flow throughout the neighborhood. Increasing traffic for over 1,000 plus added to the current volume would degrade the street and would create a silo neighborhood versus neighbors that are connected. The volume and speed already creates several issues when trying to back out on the driveway every day. And one thing is I'm on the bend of a road and you can see that speeders throughout the day, anywhere from 40 to 50 miles per hour. It makes it very hard to back into the road on 4049 Windsor Drive. We appreciate all of your time, and we've spent about 4 months gathering data, providing data, and I hope that we really depend on all of you that you're sharing and carrying all this information and really vote down the connection with the crash gate. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. If anyone else would like to speak during the second public hearing, you can do so now. Is there anyone else left willing to read their statement into the record during the second public hearing? Okay, I'm going to close the second public hearing. We're going to move on to the third public hearing. Will the clerk please call the third public hearing?
A public hearing to amend Chapter 98 of the Code of the Town of Niskuna.
Is there anyone else left willing to read their statement into the record during the second public hearing?
Yes, I would like to read my statement into the public record, please.
I'm going to close the second public hearing. We're going to move on
What
to
happened?
the third public hearing.
I unmuted
So
it.
clerk, please
I unmuted it.
Mute their mics, please. Okay, go ahead, Michelle.
A public hearing to amend Chapter 98 of the Code of the Town of Niskuna entitled Fees.
Okay, thank you. The third public hearing is now open. I did not receive any emailed letters to be read into the record. So if anybody is joining us here tonight who's on the line and would like to read their statements into the record, you can do so now. And if you'd like to read your statement into the record for the third public hearing, you are welcome to do so. Last call on the third public hearing. If you'd like to read your statement into the record, you may do so now. I'm going to close the third public hearing. We're going to move on to the fourth public hearing. Will the clerk please call the fourth public hearing?
A public hearing to amend Chapter 27 of the Code of the Town of Niskuna, broadening the residency requirements for the position of Town Comptroller.
Thank you. I have a handful of statements that were asked to be read into the record. I'll begin with a statement from Leslie Gold of 1919 Pawtucket Avenue. Leslie writes, Dear Supervisor and Niskuna Town Board, I can understand allowing a candidate from elsewhere in the county to be appointed on the condition that he or she moves into the town within a specified period, say 6 months, with perhaps a 6-month extension at the board's discretion. However, having a permanent out-of-towner just doesn't make sense to me. The position has a significant role in the annual budget preparation as well as oversight of its daily implementation and plays a role in fiscal policy development. Such a position should be held by a town resident. That concludes that statement. Next statement was submitted by Karen and Tony Lombardo. Karen and Tony Wright. Nope. This must have gotten missed in the shuffle. This actually applies to the Kelts Farm subdivision. So I will read it now, but it does not apply to this public hearing. So it states, my husband Anthony and I moved our family to Niskuna in search of a sense of community and neighbor engagement. We have lived on Windsor Drive since 2006 and selected this area for the neighborhood feel, safety, and quiet atmosphere. This proposed plan will significantly alter the feel of this neighborhood, and while my children are grown, the addition of 1,000 plus cars per day puts my community's children at risk. The value of our home in an already unsure real estate climate will surely be diminished as this development changes the character of this beautiful slice of Niskuna. I ask that you consider the impact of your decisions and do what is best for the families that live here. Support our Niskuna businesses as well as the police and fire departments. This is a sense of pride here that should not be overlooked. And again, that applied to the second public hearing. Go back to the fourth public hearing. And this is submitted on behalf of Ashley Ranslow. Is Ashley on the line? If Ashley is on the line, you may read your statement into the record. Okay, I will read Ashley's statement. As a current resident, I would like to submit comments on the proposed amendment to Chapter 27 of the Code of the Town of Niskuna. While I understand that it may be challenging to hire from within the town, there is no reason that an individual cannot move to Niskuna if he or she was hired for the position. Comptroller is a well-paying position with generous benefits. As a taxpayer-funded position, the tax dollars and discretionary spending should remain in Niskuna. I don't want my tax dollars paying an individual who's paying property tax and or sales tax in another town or county. Niskuna is a lovely place to live with an excellent school district. There should be no issue finding a qualified individual for the position of comptroller and requiring him or her to live in the town that is paying his or her salary. I respectfully request that the town board does not amend the residency requirements for the town comptroller. Thank you for your consideration of my comments. That concludes that statement. Okay. Are there any other statements that wish to be read into the record regarding the fourth public hearing? And again, last call on the fourth public hearing. If you'd like to read your statements into the record, you may do so now. Now I'm going to close the fourth public hearing. We're going to move on to the fifth public hearing. Will the clerk please call the fifth public hearing?
A public hearing to amend Chapter 55 of the Code of the Town of Niskuna to discontinue monitoring of residential and commercial emergency alarm systems by the Town Niskuna Police Department.
Okay, thank you. I have one statement that wished to be read. And I believe Ms. Cox is not on the line, correct? Ms. Cox, are you on the line? Okay. I will read her statement into the record. Ms. Cox writes, crime in Niskuna overnight is rampant. There were at least 7 to 8 home break-ins in the area of Keys Avenue and Lexington Avenue. Keys Avenue may not fall within Niskuna, but Lexington near Grand Boulevard does, I believe. I called the non-emergency Niskuna police phone number and it was confirmed a break-in occurred on Lexington Avenue. I'm aware because of the post on our next door neighbor online sharing website. Because Old Niskuna and Schenectady border as residents, we don't know what's occurring in Niskuna and what falls within Schenectady. With that being said, why cannot both police departments work together to address the uptick in crime? I have a scheduled upcoming appointment to install an alarm system due to increased crime in Niskuna. What's the point of it if it will not signal local police that assistance is needed? The crime is from petty yard lights being stolen, cars being broken into by doors being left open, but then escalates to car windows being smashed to home break-ins. I know Niskuna police can't be everywhere in the town, but has patrolling increased? How many police are on schedule in the evening? There's really no means for residents to interact with police before they need emergency 911 help. The Niskuna Facebook page is defunct. Even sheriffs have an active Facebook account to inform and advise the public. And that concludes that statement. Is there anyone else on the line that wishes to read their statement into the record for this public hearing? And last call, if anyone is on the line who wishes to read their statement into the record for this public hearing, you may do so now. Okay, I'm going to close this public hearing. I do have 2 more letters that pertain to the second public hearing. So hopefully I don't have any more that are caught here in the shuffle. But I will read these 2 letters again that were asked to be read into the record. And again, these apply to the second public hearing for Kells Farm. This one was submitted on behalf of David Klein of 3 Chestnut Lane. The most recent drawing submitted for the special use permit for the new development of the former Kelts Farm property no longer shows a road directly connecting Windsor Drive to River Road. I know many of the residents of Windsor Drive and the adjoining streets in the neighborhood have been writing and participating in recent public hearings and town board meetings actively lobbying for the exclusion of the road directly connecting Windsor to River Road. I'm writing to represent the residents that live on Lower Chestnut Lane, Riverdale Drive, and Briar Ridge who would be adversely impacted by this direct road connecting Windsor and River not being built. Currently, many use Riverdale, Chestnut, Briar Ridge, and Windsor to navigate their way from River Road to get their connection to Knott Street. These streets were not designed for the traffic that they have each day. As it stands currently, many people do not obey the stop signs or speed limits in this part of the neighborhood. Many people turning left onto Riverdale from River cut the turn in an attempt to beat oncoming traffic, often ending up in the oncoming traffic lane. Many disregard the stop sign at the corner of Chestnut and Riverdale. Also, many people speed around the blind bend on Chestnut coming down the hill from Briar Ridge. Adding additional traffic to accommodate new homeowners in the townhomes and houses being built on the Kelts Farm that are looking to head towards Rosendale Road makes no sense, particularly when the accommodations were made when the development in Windsor was built with the proper easements and other considerations in mind. I ask that the town board members please approve an appropriate plan where there is a direct road connecting Windsor Drive to River Road. That concludes that statement. And the last statement for the second public hearing was submitted on behalf of Mary Flynn Danick. It is our understanding that there will be a hearing tonight regarding the approval of this development and the resulting road connecting River Road and Windsor Road. We wanted to express our strong approval of this development and the road. We purchased our home on the corner of River Road and Riverdale in 2003, and the plan for a road connecting River Road and Windsor was formulated prior to the purchase of our home. Since we purchased our home, there have been numerous homes built on Windsor Road, as well as townhomes and soon luxury apartments. The increased traffic for all those residents has been a burden placed on our street and neighborhood, as our street is now most of the residents drive to and from their home. The traffic in and out of the neighborhood has continued to increase, and it will only increase further when the apartments are finished. The proposed development will not only bring in new residents and revenue to the town of Niskuna, but it will also ease the traffic burden on our street and neighborhood. The current traffic pattern is not logical or balanced currently, and it will only worsen as Windsor Road continues to develop. The Kells Farm development and the road connecting Windsor and River Road will create a more balanced and safe flow of traffic, in addition to the other proposed benefits of the development. Failing to approve the proposed development, which would allow a road to be built connecting River Road and Windsor, would be a disservice to the residents who live on Riverdale Road. That concludes that statement. Okay. We're now going to move on to the 6th public hearing. Will the town clerk please call the 6th public hearing?
A public hearing to amend the code of the town of Niskuna by inserting chapter 82 entitled Regulations of Chickens.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to open the 6th public hearing. I have a number of statements that were asked to be read. I'm going to begin with John Helm. If John Helm is on the line, you may read your statement into the record. John Helm, if you're on the line, you may read your statement into the record. Okay, I will read your statement into the record. Dear Supervisor Syed and town board members, I am writing to you in support of allowing chickens in Niskuna. Backyard chickens will generally get far more humane care than those raised in filthy, crowded factory farms. Industrial production is creating numerous problems, including pollution from manure, antibiotic resistance, and higher risk of a more dangerous strain of bird flu. Keeping a few chickens at home is one way that we can each do our part to address those problems. Limit their numbers and require clean, humane care. There is no legitimate reason for any town to prohibit keeping a few chickens any more than there is reason to ban keeping of dogs or cats. Backyard chickens are beneficial to the community that they live in because they, 1, offer fresh, locally sourced eggs and can be organic and non-GMO. Chickens provide a valuable low-cost food source. 2, can help to provide food security for lower-income families or during times the food is not readily available in the supermarket. 3, produce healthier eggs compared to store-bought eggs. 4, provide gardeners with high-quality fertilizer. 5, help control flies, ticks, mosquitoes, and other pests without the need for chemicals. 6, dispose of weeds and kitchen scraps that would otherwise go to the landfill. 7, are seen as therapeutic for children on the autism spectrum by getting the kids involved in feeding and caring for the chickens, thereby promoting independent living skills. 8, provide a great way for kids to learn about nature, agriculture, and the responsibility of caring for animals. It's also a fantastic way for both kids and adults to gain respect for these intelligent creatures that produce food for us. Some common misconceptions about backyard chickens include: 1, they're noisy. Hens will peep and cluck softly throughout the day and are silent at night. 2, they smell. A small flock of 4 to 6 chickens will go to the bathroom as much as an average dog, and the coop will not smell if it is kept clean. It takes 10 chickens to make as much excrement as 1 large dog. 3, they attract predators. This is not truly a misconception, but can easily be remedied by the chicken owner. Chickens aren't only food for humans, they can be food for a number of predators as well. It is the responsibility of the chicken owner to keep his or her chickens safe from predators, just as the same responsibility falls on cat and dog owners. 4, you need a rooster for hens to lay eggs. This is simply untrue. The only reason a rooster would be needed in a flock of hens would be for reproduction. Hens will still lay eggs without a rooster present. That concludes that statement. Next statement was asked to be read. It's by Michael Segura. To all involved, to keep it short and sweet, backyard chickens are a good animal to have around kids as well as adults. My son loves to play with the chickens and learn more about the outdoors responsibility and raising something to get a reward from at the breakfast table. Please allow the ownership of laying hens in Niskuna. Okay. Next statement was submitted by Ashok Ramasubramanian. Ashok, I believe you're on the line. And second call, Ashok, if you'd like to read your statement into the record. Okay, I will read the statement. My name is Ashok Ramasubramanian, and I am a Niskuna resident. I live in Old Niskuna at 2023 Arcona Court. I'm writing to express my strong, unconditional, and unwavering support to allow chickens in our backyards. It's a great teaching and learning tool for kids, and it's a source of great eggs. Who knows how long the COVID crisis will last, and I rather like the idea of having a ready supply of fresh eggs. Humans are drifting away from animals and nature, and we are paying a terrible price. We are meant to be close to other creatures, not insulated and letting horrid factory farms take care of our food needs. Banning chickens makes no more sense than banning pets. That concludes that statement. Next statement was submitted by Greg Maeda. Greg, are you on the line with us? Greg Maeda, if you'd like to read your statement into the record, you may do so now. Okay, I will read his statement into the record. Greg writes, I'm writing to let you know that I'm in support of the proposed Chapter 82 regulations of chickens. I think that the proposed regulations are fair and well thought out. I personally feel that backyard chickens are beneficial to the community and provide locally sourced eggs that are often healthier than store-bought eggs. They also provide an opportunity for children to learn about and develop a connection with where their food comes from. I believe the potential positives of allowing a small number of backyard chickens far outweighs any perceived negatives. I'm looking forward to being able to raise a handful of backyard chickens with my 2 daughters. That concludes that statement. Next statement was submitted on behalf of Jennifer Littman. Jennifer, if you're on the line with us tonight, you may read your statement into the record. And again, Jennifer Littman, if you're on the line tonight, you may read your statement into the record. Okay, I will read the statement. Dear Supervisor Syed and other members of the town board, hello, thank you for your service on behalf of our town. I'm writing to express my family's strong support of the proposed regulation changes to allow backyard chickens in Niskuna. When we moved here over a decade ago, we were disappointed to learn that backyard chickens were not allowed here. We are grateful that the issue has been recently revived, and we are very hopeful that this option, promoting local food, food security, sustainability, a closer relationship with nature, and a great educational opportunity, will be approved in our town. Even if there is a learning curve for families who choose to get chickens, this policy change would be a timely step in a good direction. About my family, my name is Jenny, and my family lives on Arcona Court near the high school. My husband teaches at Union College. Our 2 children are pupils of Craig Elementary. I have been a stay-at-home parent and student, and I will begin next month as an RN at Ellis Hospital. If Chapter 82 is added, we hope to modify our shed this fall and plan to get a small number of hens next spring. Thank you for hearing my concern, and again, thank you for your public service. Our next statement was asked to be read into the record. This was submitted by Michelle Brisk of 850 Oregon Avenue. Dear Supervisor Syed and board members, this letter is in concern to inserting Chapter 82 regulations of chickens. There are many benefits to owning chickens. Being someone who has chronic Lyme's disease, chickens have been proven to control ticks and bugs, which also means you don't have to use chemicals for bug control. A great way to go green. With more and more people trying a hand in gardening this year for some self-sufficiency, chickens provide the same benefits. The gratification of picking your own tomato is the same as collecting your own eggs. Studies have consistently shown that backyard chicken eggs have less fat and cholesterol, more vitamins and omega-3s than store-bought eggs. Store-bought eggs also contain antibiotics, therefore fresh eggs are a great health benefit. Fresh eggs also have a lower risk of salmonella infection, unlike battery cage fowl eggs purchased from the store. Another plus is that they produce the world's best organic fertilizer, another win-win for all the gardeners. They are also very social and can make a great addition to any family. They are fun and friendly pets with a personality. Sustainability and educational benefits are also a great plus. According to the City of Albany's code regulations, residents must pay a $25 fee annually for a license to keep the birds. No roosters are allowed, and they also limit up to 8 hens per lot. They also must be properly housed and maintained by the owner. If the City of Albany can allow chickens with small lot sizes and close proximity to their neighbor, then I don't see a reason why we in the suburbs of Niskuna should be denied the same benefits. As with any pet you own, there are responsibilities and hopefully some common sense. So therefore, I hope you can all please take this proposal into serious consideration. Chickens have a significant impact on our environment. Includes that statement. Next statement was submitted on behalf of Libby Kokosha. Libby, if you're on the line tonight, you can read your statement into the record. And if Libby is with us, she can read her statement into the record. Okay, I will read the statement. I'm writing to you in support of allowing chickens in Niskuna. Backyard chickens will generally get far more humane care than those raised in filthy, crowded factory farms. Industrial production is creating numerous problems, including pollution from manure, antibiotic resistance, and higher risk of a more dangerous strain of bird flu. Keeping a few chickens at home is one way we can each do our part to address these problems while providing the owners with an inexpensive and healthy local food option. It can be implemented in a way that accommodates all constituents by limiting their numbers and requiring clean living spaces and humane care. Surrounding communities have allowed chickens for use with either no restrictions or are right to farm communities, and none that I know of have had issues with chicken ownership. Backyard chickens are beneficial to the community that they live in because they, 1, offer fresh, locally sourced eggs and can be organic and non-GMO. Chickens provide a valuable low-cost food source. 2, can help to provide food security for lower-income families or during times that food is not readily available. 3, produce healthier eggs comparable to store-bought eggs. 4, provide gardeners with high-quality fertilizer. 5, help control flies, ticks, mosquitoes, and other pests without using chemicals. 6, dispose of weeds and kitchen scraps that would otherwise go to the landfill. Up to 50% of all household waste is compostable that chickens are happy to eat. 7, they're therapeutic for children on the autism spectrum by getting the kids involved in feeding and caring for the chickens, thereby promoting independent living skills. 8, provide a great way for kids to learn about nature, agriculture, and the responsibility of caring for animals. It's also a fantastic way for both kids and adults to gain respect for these intelligent creatures that produce food for us. Some common misconceptions about backyard chickens include 1, that they're noisy. Hens will cluck throughout the day and are silent all night. Dog's bark is 90 decibels. 4 dogs have a cumulative maximum possible noise level of 100 decibels. Sound pressure is a logarithmic scale. A hen's laying song is 60 decibels, so it would take 12 hens producing noise at the exact same time to produce more noise than 1 dog. Secondly, they smell. A small flock of 4 to 6 chickens will go to the bathroom as much as an average dog, and the coop will not smell if it is kept clean. It takes 10 chickens to make as much excrement as 1 large dog. 3, they attract predators. This is not truly a misconception, but can easily be remedied by the owner. Chickens aren't only food for humans, they can be food for predators. It's the responsibility of the owner to keep his or her chickens safe from predators, just as the same responsibility falls on cat and dog owners. 4, you need a rooster for hens to lay eggs. This is simply untrue. A rooster would be needed for reproduction. Hens will still lay eggs without a rooster present. I've reviewed the proposed Chapter 82 regulation of chickens and have found the following comments. 1, the town of Niskuna is a diverse community, both economically and physically. with zones ranging from R3, high-density residential with a minimum lot size of 9,000 square feet, to RR, rural residential with a minimum lot size of 80,000 square feet. Applying one standard across all types of properties is not appropriate, and there should be a delineation between zones and/or by acreage. Rural residential properties and/or farms should remain exempt from the described restrictions. R1 properties with a suggested minimum of 2 or 3 acres should be permitted more than 6 hens. 2 hens per person are required to keep a family supplied with eggs. All hens do not lay an egg every day, and 2 hens per person is appropriate to use them as a food source. Perhaps a max of 10 hens for each household in the R1 zone should be allowed. A minimum enclosure size of 2 square feet per chicken is not large enough and could cause respiratory illness and lead to excessive odors. A coop size of 3 or 4 square feet per chicken is more appropriate. 3, as stated above, the town of Niskuna is an economically diverse community. A permit fee of $75 is excessive and will make it difficult for anyone suffering from an economic hardship intending to use chickens as a food source. During this economic downturn, the town should not be using the permit of chickens as a source of income. A dog permit costs $20 and provides the owner with an ID tag, so if the dog were to get lost, it would be returned to the owner. Furthermore, cats do not cost anything. Section 82-4 enforcement states 5 days will be given to correct any violations. This is excessive and should be changed to 2 weeks. $250 per day is also excessive. I appreciate your time and consideration of the changes I've described. Thank you for considering allowing the citizens of this town the rewarding ownership of chickens. And that was submitted by Libby Kokosha of 1220 Ferry Road. Our next statement.
Supervisor,
Yeah.
Libby stayed on through all of Windsor because she wanted to read her statement herself, and she could not get unmuted. She's been trying through the whole time. So I just do want everyone on the town board to know that Libby took this very seriously. She's been on the line for 2 hours just to be able to talk to us, and she's still on the line. So Supervisor, thank you for reading her letter. And I'm not quite sure why she can't unmute. Laura was trying to do it, and we just couldn't figure it out. But Supervisor, thank you for taking that on for her.
Oh, absolutely. Libby, if you can hear us, thank you for submitting that letter. Our next letter was submitted by John Kokosha, and it is a duplicate of Libby's letter. So I will not read it into the record. However, it will be submitted into the record. So again, that was an exact duplicate of the previous letter that I just read. And that's from John Kokosha, who also resides at 1220 Ferry Road. So thank you both, John and Libby, for submitting your letters. Our next letter is from Beth and Mike Greenwood of 1333 Hawthorne Road. Dear Supervisor and members of the Town Council, we would like to commend the board for working together to find a way to allow the keeping of backyard chickens in Niskuna. The keeping of backyard chickens provides numerous benefits to the community. Chickens are an excellent means of bug and tick control, serve as a way to keep kitchen scraps from the garbage, and provide an excellent source of nutrition through their egg production. As we read through the proposed resolution, several concerns came to mind. It appears that the regulations proposed for keeping hens are significantly more stringent than that for keeping dogs, the only other household pet that is at all regulated. Having kept both dogs and chickens for most of our life together, we can attest to the fact that dogs are noisier, dirtier, and more potentially harmful than chickens. The extent of the regulations for residents to keep chickens seems disproportionate in both expense and requirements, considering the nature of the 2 types of pets. Further, it seems that enforcing the stipulations of this regulation would place a significant and undue administrative burden on the town building department. We would encourage the board to consider the necessity of these numerous requirements. It seems that the keeping of backyard chickens could be regulated in a more measured fashion while meeting the intent of the regulation as it is stated. Quote, to regulate the keeping of chickens on residential properties so as to ensure that these animals are kept and maintained in a manner that protects the town and its residents from nuisance associated with their keeping, unquote. Thank you all for your ongoing efforts on our behalf and for keeping our community a pleasant and welcoming place to live. Okay. Our next letter was submitted on behalf of Linda Goodman. Linda, if you're on the line with us tonight, you may read your statement into the record. And again, that's Linda Goodman, if you'd like to read your statement into the record. Okay, I will read Linda's statement. Dear Supervisor Syed and town board members, I'm writing to you in support of allowing chickens in Niskuna. Backyard chickens will generally get far more humane care than those raised in filthy, crowded factory farms. Industrial production is creating numerous problems, including pollution from manure, antibiotic resistance, and higher risk of a more dangerous strain of bird flu. Keeping a few chickens at home is one way we can each do our part to address these problems. Limit their numbers and require clean, humane care. There's no legitimate reason for any town to prohibit keeping a few chickens, any more than there is reason to ban the keeping of dogs or cats. Backyard chickens are beneficial to the community that they live in because they offer fresh, locally sourced eggs and can be organic and non-GMO. Chickens provide a valuable, low-cost food source. They can help to provide food security for lower income families or during times that food is not readily available in the supermarket. They can produce healthier eggs compared to store-bought eggs. They provide gardeners with high-quality fertilizer. They help control flies, ticks, mosquitoes, and other pests without the need for chemicals. They dispose of weeds and kitchen scraps that would otherwise go to the landfill. They're seen as therapeutic for children on the autism spectrum by getting the kids involved in feeding and caring for the chickens, thereby promoting independent living skills. They provide a great way for the kids to learn about nature, agriculture, and the responsibility of caring for animals. It's also a fantastic way for both kids and adults to gain respect for these intelligent creatures that produce the food for us. Some common misconceptions about backyard chickens include the fact that they're noisy. Hens will peep and cluck softly throughout the day and are silent at night. That they smell. A small flock of 4 to 6 chickens will go to the bathroom as much as an average dog, and the coop will not smell if it is kept clean. It takes 10 chickens to make as much excrement as 1 large dog. That they attract predators. This is not truly a misconception, but can easily be remedied by the chicken owner. Chickens aren't only food for humans, they can be food for a number of predators as well. It is the responsibility of the chicken owner to keep his or her chickens safe from predators, just as the same responsibility falls on cat and dog owners. And lastly, that you need a rooster for hens to lay eggs. This is simply untrue. The only reason a rooster would be needed in a flock of hens would be for reproduction. Hens will still lay eggs without a rooster present. And that concludes that public statement. Is there anyone else wishing to read their public statement into the record for the 6th public hearing? And again, is there anyone left willing to read their statement into the record for the 6th public hearing? Last call on the 6th public hearing. If anyone would like to read their statement into the record, you can do so now. And that concludes the 6th public hearing. We're now going to move on to privilege of the floor. I have 2 statements that were asked to be read into the record for privilege of the floor. And I have the first statement was submitted by Kevin Duffy of 1508 Keys Avenue. Kevin writes, Supervisor Syed and town board members, I watched with interest last month when the board voted to retain outside counsel to conduct an investigation. While the former comptroller's Halloween costume was certainly inappropriate under any circumstance, I find it particularly disturbing that taxpayers are on the hook for an investigation into a now retired former comptroller, while we leave the litany of misbehavior by Deputy Supervisor Stan Kaminsky uninvestigated. According to police records filed in the United States District Court for the Northern District of New York and the sworn depositions of other officers, including 3 former chiefs and a former deputy chief, Kaminsky is credibly alleged to have assaulted his then wife in the midst of a divorce proceeding, pushing her to the floor while screaming at her to shut the expletive off. The sworn depositions of numerous former police officers, including a former chief, a former deputy chief, and a current lieutenant, recall Kaminsky's bullying behavior toward junior officers while on the force. The current lieutenant remembered Kaminsky bullying at least 3 officers and said that Kaminsky's modus operandi was to belittle and be unmerciful towards his victims while allowing the other officers to be unmerciful to that officer. One patrolman alleges that Faminsky bullied him to the point of a nervous breakdown, including through routine threats of severe physical violence. This was found to be credible enough by a Prairie Town board to warrant a disability adjudication, which has since cost taxpayers upwards of $2 million. According to the sworn deposition of former Niskuna Police Chief Mark Salahub, Faminsky was investigated for helping falsify the timesheets in his then capacity as a sergeant of a subordinate with whom he was widely believed within the department to be having a sexual relationship. According to public federal court records, Faminsky pled guilty to multiple misconduct charges for misusing tens of thousands of dollars of town property and belittling town employees. Everyone in town knows of the allegations against Faminsky. Some have been aware for years now, but everyone lost plausible deniability last fall when the details became widely known. Launching an investigation into a retired comptroller while ignoring the flagrant misbehavior of the second highest official in town is unforgivable, particularly given the nature of the allegations and the fact that police misconduct is amongst the greatest societal problems our country currently faces. Our town deserves better than the supervisor's repeated choice to stand by Faminsky, denying simple facts like his guilty pleas in a blendered election eve press conference, and going as far as to thank him in her second inaugural speech this January. I call upon the board to continue to show leadership and demonstrate that it has no tolerance for domestic violence, workplace bullying, police misconduct, abuse of power, or sexual misconduct by retaining additional outside counsel for an investigation into Stan Faminsky. I ask that this comment be submitted into the record by the town clerk. That concludes our privilege of the floor statement. Our second privilege of the floor statement that was asked to be read into the record is submitted by Aidan Murphy of Energy Systems Group. Aidan writes, ESG will complete all of its construction responsibilities associated with the Phase 3 contract with the town of Niskuna on or about June 24, 2020. Based on the contract terms, the high-strength organic waste guarantee period would begin 30 days after final completion, so on July 23, 2020. In addition, and as previously discussed, ESG believes that the town of Niskuna has not fulfilled its basic obligations under the contract and has created an atmosphere that makes developing and building the high-strength organic waste business nearly impossible. The following items define deficiencies of the town's basic contractual obligations and structural barriers that make building a high-strength organic waste business nearly impossible for the town of Niskuna. Those are the negative press about the wastewater treatment plant and the co-digestion project has caused concerns and reticence for all the potential suppliers to the facility for high-strength organic waste disposal. The current high-strength organic waste receiving hours of operation for the facility are still confined to the pilot test hours of 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. While the town has proposed a neighborhood mitigation strategy for neighbors' concerns associated with the high-strength organic waste receiving program, there are no actions or timelines associated with the strategy. The town has not been released by New York State DEC to receive high-strength organic waste other than from VIM recycling. There is no timeline for New York State DEC to convert from the pilot test permit to a standard permit, allowing the plant to receive additional high-strength organic waste material based on the basis of the design. Based on these factors, many of which are within the town's control, ESG is being prevented from meeting the high-strength organic waste revenue guarantee. ESG is entitled to be released from the high-strength organic waste revenue guarantee outlined in the Phase 3 contract due to the actions and inactions of the town that have rendered ESG's performance impossible. ESG requests that the town formally discharge and release ESG from that obligation. ESG stands ready to help the town build up its high-strength organic waste receiving business when these barriers to success are removed. That concludes the second public statement. And I believe that is the last public statement that was wished to be read. So I'm going to conclude privilege of the floor, and we are now going to move on to our committee reports. We are going to begin with Councilwoman Jakewith.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. Under the topic of summer programs, Playground Camp is in its 4th successful week. We've received very positive feedback from parents and participants and are thrilled that we were able to run this program. As mentioned in last month's report, We are one of the only a few municipalities expending great effort to provide recreational services to our residents. It's truly a testament to our dedicated and outstanding staff. Lacrosse camp is coming up August 26 to 28. Registration's open. Concert series has been ongoing. We've been able to host 3 concerts, and everyone's been really great about social distancing and mask wearing. There are 3 more concerts that remain. This Thursday is one of them. The concert will be Loose Change. All concerts start at 7 at Town Hall Green. The driving range, that's open for the season on June 27th. But we're currently having a technical issue with the ball dispenser that we hope to clear up by the end of this week. With respect to fall soccer, after much deliberation, we've decided to cancel this program this year. Soccer is yet to be cleared by New York State, and even the high schools have pushed off the date to fall sports to September 21st at the earliest, and may not happen until after January, actually. As everyone knows, it's a very popular program. All of Niskuna residents, about 700 plus, are on the fields on Center Road on Saturday morning. So there's really no way to do this program safely and under the current conditions. The Fall Fun Run will be virtual this year. Registration for the race will open and run the first week of August, and runners will be able to run a virtual 5K of their choice and then report their times. T-shirts and bibs will be available, so look for that on the website. With respect to the Senior Center, it's officially open. It opened on July 14th for outside only for the first week, and then a combination of indoor and outside services began the week of July 21st. We're running an abbreviated day program this week, Tuesday and Thursday, 10 to 1. One of the part-time kitchen staff has been helping with cleaning the kitchen, the pantry, and like areas. While they're no longer serving food because of the difficulties with that under the current conditions, that staffer is helping run a coffee service beginning in August, and is continuing to help with end of day disinfecting. We continue to maintain all COVID guidelines and protocols. Exercise classes remain via online Zoom and YouTube until further notice. Bob, our driver, continues to do grocery runs for a handful of seniors in addition to running regular pickups on program days. As far as highway, our highway crews are regularly picking up yard waste. The tree crew has been out trimming and conducting root removal services. Shoulder mowing is also occurring throughout town. Also, crews are milling in preparation for the next round of paving, which is tentatively scheduled for next week. Parks crews have been mowing all parks and facilities. Crews have refurbished the baseball and softball fields at Avon Crest Park. Beautiful job. Daily parks cleaning and inspections continue. I'd like to thank Schenectady County, as we will soon receive funds to make additional improvements throughout our recreational spaces. So look for those improvements in the near future. Highway and parks crews really deserve a huge thank you for all the work they're doing on a daily basis to keep the spaces our residents have been heavily using during this time clean and functional. The next Highway, Parks, and Recreation meeting will be Wednesday, August 5th at 8 a.m. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We're now going to move on to John Delarada.
Thank you, Supervisor. We had the Economic Development and Historic Preservation Committee meeting on July 10th, and that was at 8:30 in the morning. We are going to have our next meeting on August 7th. I am unsure if that's going to be virtual, so the location of that will be determined at a later date. We have a lot going on, as you can see from the resolutions tonight. We discussed vaping at the last committee meeting, and there's a resolution on that tonight, which hopefully the town will take action to prohibit vaping at all of our town parks and other town facilities. Also, we have the Kelts Farm resolution on tonight, the special use permit. I think my position on that has been pretty clear publicly. So we will be discussing that shortly in one of the resolutions. Outside of that, the building department has been very busy. They may need some extra time to process the permits because there's been a lot of them going on. So please be patient with them during this building season, and we hope to see all that can make it on August 7th. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now going to move on to Councilwoman McGraw.
Thank you, Supervisor. The report from the Public Works Committee this month. Obviously, the summer is a very busy time for the department and the committee. I think many of us have seen the work that's going on over at the Mohawk Road water main replacement project. This is something that's been long overdue, and I'm just so grateful to the whole team, Matt Yetto, and everyone over there. It looks like we'll be able to wrap that up by September. Anyone who's driven on Rosendale and River and over toward Mohawk has really seen a tremendous transformation. The new circle that's there, we owe a huge debt of gratitude to my colleague, John Delarada. He and I worked with the county quite closely on that, and to see what's gone on over there and how quickly they were able to do it and how well. It is really just one of the most beautiful road projects you've ever seen in the community. So get over to River and Rosendale and see how great it looks. And the extension of that will be the water main project that will really help that whole neighborhood in that direction. So I want to thank everybody. The water and sewer crews have been out working to inspect and repair manholes. I think we've all seen them. They've been on my street regularly. The valves, hydrants, and roads identified on the highway department's paving list have all been worked on so that the highway department can actually get paving. And I know everybody's eager for that to happen. There have been a number of water conservation efforts throughout the town this summer. It's been an awfully hot summer with not a lot of rain. I mean, we got quite a storm this morning, but the downside to the beautiful weather that we've had is we have had to enact a few water conservation measures throughout the summer. We also, because the canal has been closed due to construction, so that has in fact impacted our water levels, but now the canal has opened as well. So things seem to be moving along in that direction. It was very kind of my colleague to mention the $110,000 grant that we worked with so closely with the county to secure that grant. We started working on that last summer. And one of the first beneficiaries of those funds will be the splash pad. 2 new features to the splash pad was something that we had wanted for a long time now, since we opened the splash pad about a year ago. They will be installed tomorrow, I hope, and I'm pretty excited about that. I'll let you be surprised when you get there, but I think it's pretty cool, and I'm very grateful to the county and to everybody who helped work with us last summer on pulling together a list of projects throughout the community that could really benefit from the generosity of the county. And I'm eager to see all of those projects take place. The next meeting of the Public Works Committee will be the 6th of August. And I look forward to seeing folks there. I believe we're still going to be virtual. But follow your emails on that. We are still working on a Whitmire Drive mitigation plan. Everybody heard the letter from ESG tonight. It's very disappointing what's happened with the wastewater treatment plant and our inability to use it to its full potential. This is a project that has won statewide awards, regional awards. It is state of the art. It is the future of how these projects and these facilities are going to be run, not only throughout New York State, but throughout the country. We were one of the first, but we're certainly not going to be the last. So I really do hope that we are able to get the plant running to its full potential as quickly as we possibly can. It's been very disappointing. I mentioned the canal a minute ago. We've been very excited about partnering with the Canal Corp on the pedal paddle, the whole concept that they launched a few weeks ago, staycations throughout upstate New York. And we were one of the locations that were chosen for staycations. And it's a fantastic program. It's all free. It's going to be extended past Labor Day. Currently, right now, it's sold out, all the reservations, but they're adding a few more days. And they are adding days of the week, and they are adding days past Labor Day. So New York Canals is where you go to make your reservation, and I encourage folks to do that. And then lastly, I just want to mention, last evening I had the great honor and privilege of hosting a community conversation with Dr. Ibram Kendi, who is the author of the New York Times bestselling book, How to Be an Anti-Racist. It kicked off a program that I've been working on for a few months now. We've finally launched. It is the Capital Region Community Anti-Racist Training Initiative. We are working with about 20 groups, and that number keeps growing. And I'm very pleased with what happened last night. About 10,000 people have already viewed it. It was a very frank conversation about equality, about racism, and about the importance of actually being an active anti-racist. I want to thank everybody who supported that. I want to encourage folks to get involved. Our next steps will be a 21-day racial equality habit building challenge. It'll be 21 days of getting emails and getting little prompts on things to do to make you better aware of racism, systemic racism, your thinking, external learnings. It's really a wonderful opportunity. It's all free. We will then go into the fall with what we're calling the Allyship Institute. And I'm excited about that. It will be 8 trainings throughout the month of September into early October. And then we will wrap up with an equally as exciting event as we had last night. Another big name will come to town, and we will have another conversation around race. Anyone who's interested in engaging in any of this, again, it is all free. Do as little or as much as you'd like. It's a terrific curriculum. I can't take credit for all the curriculum, but I certainly can take credit for the energy, the enthusiasm, the cool names. And if anybody is interested, proctors.org/anti-racist. Thank you, Madam Supervisor.
Thank you very much. We're now going to move on to Councilman McPartlin.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. Police and Public Safety Committee met on July 7th. Operationally, the chief and the town legal department are working on the release of disciplinary records for our department due to the repeal of the Civil Service Law 50A. Regarding our fleet and equipment, we are still waiting on the shipment of 2 police cars. We may see them in November. That's what we're hoping for. Our 4 new radar signs should be shipping out actually last week, so we should have them out and ready to go relatively soon. Regarding building a town hall and the lock system, we had 2 bids for that. The committee discussed these quotes. It's the recommendation of the police department to go with one particular one, and we're working with Charlie Bergami about that. Citizen issues. We let everyone know about the traffic circle, which was closed in the beginning of July, which, as Councilwoman McGraw said, has now been completed. And if anybody hasn't been down there, it's really a very nice improvement to that intersection in town. We had some emails and calls from residents in Hexham Gardens about stop signs over there. What we do there is traffic studies to see if there's any warrant to any stop signs needing to be added. Also, some residents from Pine Haven Drive and a resident from Linwood Drive. We did have a traffic survey on Linwood at the average speed 20 miles an hour, 85th percentile 30 miles per hour. So speed is pretty well in check there. Community events, the food truck festival is canceled due to COVID. I'm sure everybody's aware that most festivals or any type of events like that are going to be canceled this year. The town clerk attends our meetings. She's working with APF about fees and our contract with them. We're still in negotiations with them. And she's been giving permits to Mr. Dingling and Kona Ice, other providers of ice cream services in the town. We didn't have any of the justices at our meeting this month, but the courts may be opening soon. And when that happens, we will be working with them on the staffing and how to try to help them with what they need to do to get their processes done. The chief reported that Fire District 1, their training is being restarted, and that all of their fire personnel are all healthy. The school district graduation went fine. A little bit of traffic problems with that, but it did go off without too much trouble. And I want to thank the school district and working with them, and glad that we can at least have our students who graduated this year have some sort of graduation service. Personnel-wise, we want to send out our condolences to retired Deputy Chief John Waterfield's family. John Waterfield worked for the town from 1959 to 1987 and passed away. So we want to send our condolences to his family and thank our officers, particularly Officer Relation and Wyman, who stood honor guard at his services. One other note, we had Gene Sosnow from NCAP at our meeting. The NCAP has provided the town with a grant for signage in the parks about no alcohol, drugs, smoking, and vaping. You heard about that earlier. And we're working on getting a final design for the sign there, and Highway Department about getting those signs up in our parks. And that's all I have. Our next meeting will be August 4th at 8 a.m. And we'll wait and see if that's going to be virtually or in person. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'm going to move on to Supervisor's report. I'm going to be brief so we can get to all of our resolutions. I would like to highlight that the town hall is open to the general public. However, we still are open by appointment only. So if you would like to make an appointment, you can reach a specific department if you would, if you have business that you need to conduct here at Town Hall. And that's on our website, niskuna.org/departments. Has a whole rundown of every single department. There are phone numbers. You can also reach any one of our departments via the web form. Or if you have someone's direct email address, you can do that as well. Particularly pay attention to the town clerk's office page. There are a number of things that you can do online. So whether it's a certain type of license, transfer station permit, a bunch of things. We've streamlined all of our processes. We put them online for your convenience and also for your health and safety. So we urge you, please visit our website. There is so much business that can now be conducted via phone, via email, and via our online web forms that you can simply drop into the mail or email them back to us. So we hope to make your lives easier and also improve your health and safety by providing all of those services now online. In regards to our farmers market, if you had the pleasure of attending our first two, I was thoroughly impressed by them. They were so well attended. There was such a wonderful feeling in the air of community, all of our Niskuna residents gathering together in one place, but very socially distant, and again, doing so in as safe a manner as possible. I do want to highlight and thank all of our different departments that helped bring that to fruition. So nobody sees what happens in the background, but from our farmers market committee, all the work that they do, getting up early in the morning, helping set up, helping with tear down. Not only that, we have our water and sewer department that lends us the jumbo sign to advertise. We have our highway department that maintains the beautiful green, helps put up additional signage. And then we also have our police department that does a lot of the work putting up all of the signage that you see that keeps everybody safe on that day. So it's a real collaborative effort, and it's truly amazing going there every single Saturday morning and just seeing it all come together in such a wonderful way. And now it is one of my favorite times of the year, budget season. We have released all of our prior year budgets to our department heads to seek their input back to us. All of that's going to go into what will hopefully be the tentative budget. Again, that is due at the end of September. And so, yeah, again, it's budget season. And so we hope to be working collaboratively as well with all of our department heads on the formation of the tentative budget. So that concludes my supervisor's report. We're now going to move on to resolutions, and we're going to begin with resolution 220-182, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A ceremonial resolution commemorating the Capital District Transportation Authority for 50 years of service to the community.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2020-183, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution certifying the adjusted base proportions to be used as class tax shares for municipal and school district levies.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2020-184, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution certifying the current base proportions to be used as a class tax share for municipal and school district levies.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2020-185, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution authorizing certain budgetary modifications.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2020-186, sponsored by Councilwoman Jakewith. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution authorizing the supervisor to enter into a public benefit service agreement with Schenectady County.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? I would just like to thank the county for all that they're going to be providing the town. I know one of the things that came up a lot when we were discussing the improvements to River Road Park was softball safety netting. So River Road Park is a place where I take my niece quite often. She loves it, and I can attest to the fact that those softballs do fly. So I'm particularly looking forward to that being installed. It's going to make our park much safer, and in addition to that, so much is going to happen. Resurfacing of town playing surfaces, tennis courts, basketball courts, bleacher additions, water features for the sports pad, picnic tables and benches, upgraded handicap accessibility, and improvements to our community center building. So we're incredibly grateful to the county And again, it's going to be a great boon to the residents here. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2020-187, sponsored by Councilwoman Jakewith. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution appointing town pool employees.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I have an amendment to this. I have one more rec leader to add. This time of year is very difficult for us. The college students go back. And this year they're going back even earlier than they normally do because of COVID. Everyone has seen the reports in the paper. The school years are going to start earlier. So we're going to add one more rec leader to get us through to the combination of the college students going back earlier and Labor Day being about as late as it can possibly be has really, so I'm going to add one more rec leader at the same rate as Taylor Barber, the $20. Stephen Baldwin, who is a longtime camp employee of the town and has been with our rec program for years. And he's really stepping up and helping us tremendously to get through, keep the pool open until Labor Day and then get it cleaned up and shut down for the season.
Okay,
So I'm making a motion to second this to add Stephen I'm making a motion to amend this to add Stephen Baldwin.
Okay. Title rec leader.
Yes.
Okay. So we have a motion to amend to add Stephen Baldwin. Is there a second on the motion to amend?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion to amend? Okay, will the clerk please call the roll on the amendment?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
Okay, so amendment passes, and now will the clerk please call the roll on the motion as amended?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
Motion as amended passes. Next resolution, 2020-188, sponsored by Councilwoman Jakewith. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution approving a license agreement for use of basketball courts at Avon Crest.
Thank you. I will second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2020-189, sponsored by Councilwoman Jakewith. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution appointing members to the Task Force on Racial Equality and Justice for the town of Niskuna.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none.
I would like to say something just very briefly, if I could.
Yep.
Hold on a second. I made some notes about it. So I'd like to thank my fellow board members for their support of the task force. Some residents don't realize that we discussed the creation of this task force before the governor's executive order requiring local governments to engage residents on issues related to our local police. The charge of this task force was written more broadly than that. It envisions consideration of all programs, practices, and services. And while that's broad enough to include the governor's directive on police, it's set up to do so much more than that. So the task force will be a vehicle for change and positive growth, and I'm thankful for the overwhelming support and interest in serving. Today, we're designating 15 task force members to start the work, and we wish them well and are thankful for their willingness to serve our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2020-190, sponsored by Councilwoman Jakewith. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution accepting grants from the Niskuna Community Foundation.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2020-191, sponsored by Councilwoman Jakewith. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution approving an annual software agreement for use by the Office of Community Programs.
Thank you. I will second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2020-192, sponsored by Councilman Delarada. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution enacting a local law amending Chapter 98 of the Code of the Town of Niskuna entitled Fees.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Yes.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2020-193, sponsored by Councilman Delarada. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to take action on a special use permit for an average density development to be located at 2538 River Road, Kelts Farm.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
Yes. I'm not sure now if it's appropriate to make an amendment to the special use permit and then discuss, or discuss and then amend.
Why don't you propose it? It may not be relevant.
Okay. So I would like to propose that we amend, hold on a second, sorry, gonna get it right. So I would propose a modification to the special use permit allowing only a walk and bike path connecting Windsor and an entrance to the new development on River Road.
I've been alerted to the fact that that is not relevant. We can't amend this to just put in the bike and walk path. It would change the character and the nature of the project. Maybe one of the town attorneys want to get on.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that. So to the extent that the town board wants to consider a decision that says, there can be no connection, that would change, and Laura, feel free to jump in, that would change the layout of the sketch plan. So meaning the configuration of the houses would change by virtue of prohibiting a cut through. So while this resolution is phrased as an either or, you can approve it with conditions, but that they have to be non-zoning in nature. And Laura, do you want to expand on what I mean by that?
Well, okay, so maybe this is a clarification. This is what I kind of sent out in my email. I mean, the town board can modify or change the conditions that were recommended by the planning board. But, you know, like the subdivision and the right to subdivide the land itself isn't something, that's something the powers are delegated to the planning board.
So I'm not understanding, because I thought we could record, again, vote on the special use permit, the average density, but no, okay.
Alternative would be to achieve the same result. The alternative would be to deny, and it would go back to the planning board, and you could deny with a directive, meaning deny, we don't want this to come back to the town board with a connection. Arguably, you can make that explanation in your denial, and then the applicant would go before the planning board with a new sketch plan, and this process would kind of restart.
Well, okay. I defer, I guess, to the legal on that. I do think that we've modified special use permit conditions in the past from the planning board. But I guess if that's the route that you're going down, and I apologize because I don't see that a whole lot, you do have to still take action on seeker, I believe. So
yeah, I think we have to vote, right?
Well, yes, but just to understand, if you guys have to, I mean, so if you were saying there's no negative impacts to the development, but you're gonna deny the special use permit the way that it's written, it'd be unusual.
And the reason being is, I believe it has to go, there's public hearing requirements that would have to be replicated before the planning board if this was to be reconfigured into a different sketch plan. Sorry, Taylor. Sped up about hearing about this.
So, Alexis, I know that we talked about this before, but I thought that, like, if the planning board puts a condition in their recommendation to the town board and the condition is outlined as something, the town board has the ability to modify the special use permit to the extent that they need to protect the things that they review under special use permits. So they could certainly add conditions like, they would want to see the planning board explore the entrance off of River Road, and, they would like to require, I don't know about that.
I think what you're trying to get at is what the conditions are contemplated when it says the town board may approve with conditions. I think those conditions are contemplated to be more like, for example, condition being the gate can't open for 5 years, or the gate has to be painted X color. It's not meant to change the actual underlying sketch plan of the presented plan. Is that what you're getting at, Laura?
Well, I kind of agree with that, but I do actually think it would, if the town board was to say bike path only, that doesn't necessarily mean that the planning board would have to change the configuration. It would mean that the developer was, because you can keep the general configuration of that development with paving a bike path only. And then you guys could kind of weigh in on where you wanted that road connection to be, because right now it's in both places. And just say, that you would strongly urge the connection on River Road, or the planning board explore the connection on River Road. But so I think to the extent that it doesn't necessarily change what the planning board is, like the configuration of the houses, what you would lose out on by saying bike path only, if you were to refer that back to the planning board of bike path only, the planning board could keep the configuration that it has, but now if the road was ever to be paved, it would be the town would be paying to pave the road, and you would lose all the benefits of the emergency access being paved,
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying the town board could make a condition, but that the condition would be that there's not going to be a connection at this time, and that it would just be lose out on the ability to have that. If we wanted to have a connection in the future, the town would have to do that. So would there be a deed to the town of that land?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is enough flexibility that they could say that without changing the configuration. I mean, that's certainly what I've heard. I mean, I do have to say, I think that the comments that we hear from the Windsor Drive residents are very intelligent. They're very thoughtful. I love working with all of them. They're amazing. But they are very typical of comments that we receive for subdivision approvals. And, you aren't hearing from the majority of residents that do benefit from that connection. which you do have to sometimes keep in mind. It's hard to keep that in mind. I call it the silent majority.
Okay, with that context, I guess, so I'll amend what I said earlier. The town board, I guess, could make that condition consistent with what Laura just said, but that there would be no change to the actual number of houses or the layout. It would leave open the option of a paving in the future. It just wouldn't be done by the builder.
Okay, so we could alter under further resolved number 1. We could alter the language to say, instead of shall occur with a fully paved connection, we could alter it to shall occur with a multi-use path. And that would not change the configuration, correct?
Yeah, I think you can. I just feel like I should mention that when you're reviewing developments, anything that you can get a developer to pay is obviously cost savings to the town. Mm-hmm. There isn't, I don't know, a material difference between having it paved and not paved as long as the gate is there. And so I'm just wondering what you're gaining, just fiscally.
Well, I obviously, so I went back and read, obviously there's been a lot of documentation, a lot of discussion about these issues. I went back and, read all those documents. The special use permit, clearly proposes extending the connector road with a gate at River Road. And the quote I, got from the documents was, until such time as any additional traffic impacts can be mitigated. So the intent is clearly to, at some point, open up the road to River Road, right? So I went back and I was, looked at the comprehensive plan, as everyone keeps referring to, and I was struck by, in particular, the traffic volume chart that cites 18 distinct problematic traffic areas identified in the 2013 document. And, I noted that a vast majority of those problems from 2013 remain today, which reasonably, speaks to our ability to address traffic problems. But laying that aside for a second, I'd like to speak to 2 in particular that were identified in 2013 that have been addressed in such a way that I think will actually contribute additional traffic problems to Windsor Drive, as envisioned when the gate is opened, as is stated. So one of those traffic problems is that is identified as Knott Street west of Balltown. This area is identified as having a poor traffic flow. And that soon is going to be addressed with the new, county's Knott Street Safety and Improvement Project, the result of which will entice further traffic down Knott Street and certainly through Windsor, and when there's a connection to a river. And then the second traffic problem that's identified in the comprehensive plan from 2013 that also stood out for me was the one we've discussed earlier in the meeting, the Rosendale Roundabout. That's, lessening impediments to travel through that area. So again, it seems really clear that the result will be to entice further traffic down Rosendale to River and through Windsor when that road's, opened. And according to the traffic study that everyone's been citing, currently there's about 3,700 cars that travel down Windsor.
Yes.
On a daily basis. And at the time of the study, again, it was estimated that about 952 cars would travel when that's opened up. And again, that's what's envisioned. I heard many times that Windsor Court's built for it, but I don't see, I think we've heard substantial evidence that it can't withstand any further traffic without, and I'll use the language from the special use permit, without being without negative effect on health, safety, or general welfare of the persons residing in the vicinity, and without being injurious to property and improvements within the proximity. So again, just taking the general traffic areas, I don't think that road should ever be there, is I guess what I'm saying. And then back to the earlier point about the things that are pending that we haven't been able to address in terms of traffic. We have longstanding traffic issues that we have not been able to address. The recommendation was, again, that when we can mitigate those, but given the fact that we have not done that, and there's been a long-standing issue with many of the ones that exist, And given the current current fiscal circumstances, I don't think it's reasonable to believe that those are going to, work. So in other words, again, I want to get to a place where I understand, I watched all the planning board meetings, we all did, we understand the connectivity issues, but those aren't the only issues. And I'm of the opinion that that road should never be built. So I don't have an issue, I don't have an issue with that, not ever being done, because I don't think it's something that should ever be done.
I agree.
That being said, I think you'd be better off voting it down altogether than trying to make an amendment like that, because that amendment is going to really change what was presented to the planning board.
So what are you saying again, John? What are you saying?
I would be more comfortable having it go back in front of the planning board with no crash gate, and then them reviewing it again. I think it would only be one meeting, have another public hearing on it, and then vote right after that public hearing. So we don't have a hodgepodge resolution that concerns something that's very important, I think, to that, not only that neighborhood, but I agree with you. I think that this redirects the traffic flow. I never agreed that it's in accordance with our comprehensive plan. I think that's a bad interpretation. So I would be more comfortable if the board wanted to make that type of change and just voting it down and then having the planning board come back with the plan that doesn't include a crash gate and just a bike path there.
I didn't think we could do that, John. I thought if we voted it down.
We can do that.
We can? Okay.
Yes.
I thought if we did that, then it went back to the planning board and then we had no control over it.
No, that's not the case. They have to bring it back to us. So, and they've always said that. I mean, we've listened to them. They know, they've kind of put it down onto us. So I want to thank John. He's really tried to lead the way on this. I want to thank the residents who all took time to meet with us, to talk to us, to welcome us into their homes. I know folks have talked about traffic studies. I don't need to read you the comprehensive plan. I don't need to cite anybody the traffic studies. You've all looked at them. You've all quoted them to us for months. I'm sorry that people had to spend so many months and so much time and so much money on this whole project. I think that everyone has the best of intentions, but as I've said to so many people who live over there, who have had me in their yards or I've talked to over the years, regardless of what the project is, each and every one of us has no greater asset than our home. And my number one job is to maintain or hopefully improve the value of your home. And I just don't feel that way right now on this. And I'm not sure I've ever felt this way in all my years. I really felt that way, that I've been doing something that everyone has come to us and talked to us about, and everyone is speaking with the same voice on this. I think the residents have done a magnificent job. It's a very unique situation. I'm sitting in my living room month after month, either at this town board meeting or the planning board meetings. I've been on the line for each and every one of them, and my husband has listened to it with me. And I said tonight, I've never seen residents do such a wonderful job, so respectful, so thorough, so thoughtful. And I just want to thank all of them. But I agree with John. I'd like to vote. I intend on voting no on this tonight. I think it needs to go back to the planning board. I don't support a crash gate. And I think that, and I feel bad, and I apologize to my friends on the planning board. Some of my dearest friends are on that planning board. I know how hard they've worked till 1 a.m, till midnight. But I can't vote for this like this, and I don't want to make an amendment on the fly.
Well, I was under the impression that we could amend, and it was my hope that we could finally tonight give, all of the Windsor Drive neighbors what they've been asking for. And really that's been no crash gate, right, multi-use path, and allowing for the average density development. So you've satisfied what Joel wants, and you've also satisfied what the Windsor Drive neighbors want. And just like you've stated, just like everyone stated, I mean, they've taken so much time to convey what they would be comfortable with. But if that's not an option, and that's what I'm now understanding, that is
Right.
an option that we can amend that way.
That's
Yep.
what I always thought that was going to be our option. I certainly thought that's what we were going to be doing tonight. And then I was told we couldn't. So I'm hopeful that planning can take it up immediately. I mean, everybody listened. I know Rosemary did. I did. John did. And planning always thought that we were going to have more input on this.
Right.
This is our input.
Right. So I'm comfortable with sending it back to planning board so long as none of those conditions are going to be put back in. So as long as there's surety that we won't lose that control, that the town board will.
It's got to come back to us.
Right.
Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but
Yeah,
I spent.
That's my question. Yep.
Right. My understanding is it has to come back to us.
It will come back to you, and Laura, like I said, feel free to jump in. If he's presenting another configuration of an average density development, it has to come back for a special use permit.
So what if the developer chooses to go R1?
Yeah.
Yeah, Laura, so I mean, if
that's
it's a major
concern.
subdivision in R1, does it have to go before town board? It can just be approved as a major subdivision.
It can just be approved as a major subdivision at the planning board level.
But I do think that, I don't know if the developer is on the call right now, but I think that he is pretty committed to staying with an average density development.
But is he 100% committed? So, and I think that's what the Windsor Drive residents are concerned about.
Of course.
Is we send it back, he goes R1, and then, all of the concerns are right back there for them.
The safeguard could be that you wouldn't accept the deed to the road if he was to do that. That would be the town boards. If they weren't able to issue a special use permit because it went through a major subdivision, you could just make it known that you were going to refuse to accept the deed to a road if they tried to do a connection. I mean, it's kind of passive aggressive, but I mean, that would be your level of control. You can refuse to put it on the town map.
I mean, personally, I'd rather amend as Councilwoman Jakewith was laying out, if we can, if that doesn't change the plan, which, as I'm understanding from Laura, is that we could do that.
Having served on the planning board and the zoning board, okay, when issues come to the town board, and Alexis has pointed this out, and Paul Briggs too, okay, we are voting on what's here in front of us right now. We try to make amendments and we try to do things. Now we're taking the power of the planning board and zoning board and putting that to the town board. If we don't like what the planning board has sent us and the zoning board has sent us, or not so much zoning, but the planning board, then we need to send it back to them. But when those things happen, we run the risk of, and Laura knows this, she's shaking her head, that the builder, developer, whoever could say, I'm done with that. I'm going to make it R1, and it won't come back to the town board. Now, Alexis, you're saying that we might be able to put some language in there that changes that and that sort of thing. And I understand all that. And when we met with the residents, and I sort of explained this to them, the town board doesn't tell the planning board what to do. We don't want our government to operate like that. All those people are pretty much volunteer, and they do a lot of hard work. They've had a lot of meetings, and we don't dictate what they do. They give us information. They give us recommendations. That's what we have here in front of us. If we don't like that, well, we can vote it down and send it back to them and see if they can come up with something else. But there's no guarantee that that something else will be what the town board wants. We want our government to operate the right way. Planning board has its powers, town board has its powers. Ultimately, the town board has to make a decision, and the reason it came to us is because of the density. Nothing to do with the road, nothing to do with the connection. If it was R1, it would have never gotten to the town board. So those are the things that we're up against.
Which is why I thought we had to do an amendment to secure that issue.
I thought so as well, Rosemary. If somebody can explain to us how to do this, that's my preference is to do that. But I was told on Friday that we could not.
And Alexis, because then, legally, are we really doing the right thing by making those sort of amendments to what we have here in front of us?
And like, so I mean, Councilman Partland, you're correct. Like, I mean, just purely from looking at state statute, the zoning, all of the zoning authority and power is vested with the Planning and Zoning Commission, and then the town board has the police power aspect of that. I think if the map is not changing, in that without a connection, there's going to be no change in the configuration of the houses, no additional houses, then Laura is correct that you could approve it tonight and amend the resolution so that it's such that it's approved condition on being no connection. And this based on my understanding of just all of the different configurations presented by the developer, and I don't want to be presumptuous, is that without the connection, it would change the configuration of how many houses there would be, where they would be placed. If that's not the case, and and we want to restrict the approval is now restricted to this specific layout of houses, meaning there's a house right alongside where the connection would be, versus having just the multi-use path come straight through. That's fine, but I do think it infringes from a legal standpoint on the authority of the planning board if the town board were to dictate where more the placement of houses would be within the average density development.
Could we allow in the amendment for the 24 homes, but that could be moved per the planning board and the developer's authority, but again, the condition being the bike path connection only, the entrance with potential for the houses to be allocated, the 24 homes to be allocated based on those additional conditions as best suited for the additional conditions. Those additional conditions again being bike path only connection and the connection to the development on River Road only.
And Laura, this might be my view is that if we do not need to go, if the changes that would be made post town board resolution would be of the nature that they wouldn't implicate a requirement for us to go back to the county and receive another recommendation as to whether or not they approve it or deny it, then that would not be substantially changing the zoning. But if the changes would be such that we have to go back to the county, then that would be infringing kind of more in the zoning territory.
With a county referral or the highway?
The county referral. I mean, how the county, I think it's the fifth attachment to those resolutions, they gave an opinion on the open space requirements and the configuration. Meaning if the developer makes so many changes as a result of this amendment that we have to go back to the county, that to me is material enough that it now comes to zoning changes versus just conditions on the special use permit.
But didn't the county already really approve that road with the gate? I mean, they envision that. So if the road stays where it's currently drafted to be a gate and it just becomes a road instead as the only connection to that to me doesn't seem significant. The county's already approved that road opening, whether it happens now or eventually.
Conditionally, they would see the full engineering of that. And the highway county planning stated that their conditional approval is also based on county highway approval, but the highway approval was conditionally okay with the entrance that has the much better sight lines. They're the ones that removed the second entrance on River Road. I do agree with you, Alexis. I think that you can make this configuration work with a bike path only and an entrance on River Road. Understanding that, and it's not going to be that, because you can kind of take that where the two houses or the two townhomes are connecting into River Road, you can take that and make it into a cul-de-sac. So instead of having a single cul-de-sac, you're going to have like a forked cul-de-sac off of River Road.
Okay.
So did that answer the questions regarding your options in terms of voting? I know. So I mean, to address, so in terms of the risk that's being had, just denying it, and then you run a risk of a major subdivision that doesn't come before the town board. Like I said, I think the safeguard there is that you could always not accept the deed to a road that if a connection was ever built, that would be within the town board's authority. But and I don't know if the developer's on the line, but I do, and I don't want to make assumptions, but I do think that he was making substantial changes to the sketch plan if that connection is not going through. So if you were to approve it, then you're binding him to that design.
Well, again, I was wondering if we could add the language that the 24 homes could still be modified, location-wise based on those two other conditions.
And the location stuff, that's where it gets into the planning board's jurisdiction, where they're going to be laid out, how they're
But
going
we
to
don't designate it. We said, pursuant to, where the planning board and the developer decide, that those homes can go under the new, bike path only, connection on River Road only. Seems like we could get the language there to allow for the flexibility. I agree with you. I don't want to say, we don't want to say where the homes necessarily, have to go to. That is within the planning board's purview. But to avoid the issue of, again, denying it, that was my understanding. If we denied it, that would open up his ability to, go back and remove, not go forth with the average density, the R1. And I think we all agree the average density is development is a great thing. I would like to keep that intact.
Okay, so do we have would anyone like to make a motion to amend them based off of our prior discussion?
I still think the safer play is to vote the resolution down as opposed to, I mean, the amendment would have to completely strike out number 1, right? And that seems to be the intent of the whole resolution. I mean, I don't think it's going to be an issue with the developer coming back without this same plan in the crash gate, because I think he tried to include that from the beginning. So I think the safe play not to usurp another branch of government would be to just turn it down and let the developer go back to the planning board with this same plan with no crash gate and just a bike path and walking connection and go from there.
Right, and the builder already wants that, right? Didn't he present that to us one of the last meetings? Planning board, not to us.
That was his original intent. That was my understanding as well. I'm just sort of following.
I don't know if it's his original intent. He just put it out there like the last month or something, right?
No, I'm sorry. I meant that he never wanted the connection to begin with, is what I'm.
Right. Yeah. You're right, Rosemary.
Yeah. So again, I was just following the letter of my understanding of the rules is that if we deny, back to what Bill was saying, if we deny it, it could work out, but to guarantee it, the safer route is to do the amendment. Now, I wish the developer was on. It would be, obviously great to confirm that and go forward based on.
He's trying to call in right now. Sorry about that. He has no audio.
But we're going to get into a whole thing with the developer right now. This is not planning board.
No, I mean to that issue of, if we just deny it, will what we want to accomplish occur? It is cleaner, but again, to not run the risk of him just going, well, I'm just going to go R1. That's
right.
The other thing I'm trying to address.
Right. I think we all have the same goal in mind.
Right.
So I need some people to understand. Guys, but I actually really think that you have to address seeker if you're going to deny it. Or remove seeker entirely from the resolution, because the things that you're talking about are concerns that you have with impacts, to traffic and things like that. So if you're to go forth with the resolution with the seeker clause and then choose to use the further resolve clause to deny it, you're actually still saying file a neg deck and then denying the special use permit. So I mean, jump in here, Alexis, but I think either you have to remove the seeker clause or Or you put in your seeker that the only way that you feel that there's no negative environmental impacts is that a road connection never be allowed. And then your further condition is, you know, the planning board can work on the sketch plan as referred to you with a bike path connection only, and that you, that the road connection be made at River Road, or at least that's your strong preference. But I don't think that you can, I really think you just have to be careful with the way that the resolution is currently written, because it is a full neg deck seeker the way that it's written. You have to do something about it.
I see what you're saying. So where it says now, therefore, that clause after that, if we're denying, we'd have to strike that as well.
Yeah, so typically when the planning board is the lead agency on seeker, they will roll into the conditions that the CAC recommended. And in this case, the CAC recommended to you guys that it was a conditioned recommendation that seeker only be approved with traffic mitigation. The reason that wasn't rolled into your seeker is because the next further resolve clause had that the gate wouldn't be lifted without traffic mitigation. But it doesn't seem as though you guys feel that a gate and traffic mitigation is the solution to that, in which case I think you have to actually roll back to the seeker determination and decide there whether or not you feel that you would condition your seeker with no road connection, or you would at this point just say we're uncomfortable with everything that's going on here, and then remove the seeker declaration. And I don't even know how you do that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of confusion here.
You table the resolution? I don't know.
Well, can we table? Can you and Alexis maybe talk offline while we finish this packet of resolutions? Because right now, if people could see my screen, there's this chat going on. There's people texting me. It's coming at me in every direction right now. So that's not normally how town board works. Laura,
Laura and I
this
can
is
talk
not
offline
also how normally town board works. But Laura and Alexis, do you want to go offline and try to give us something that could actually pass the sniff test here?
Yeah,
you understand where we're coming from. I have no interest in a crash gate. I think for the most part, what we're all really interested in is a bike path. I know that Joel has already presented that. That's what the neighbors are willing to accept. That's what I would prefer. Rosemary has already tried to go there with an amendment. So, but there's so many pieces to this. I don't think that we can all just sit here staring into screens and getting that done.
Yes, I'm happy if we want to move on the agenda, this to the last resolution. I will say I'll confirm, but there is, I think, a 60-day requirement, meaning the town board has to act within 60 days of the recommendation. So I don't think tabling is procedurally allowed, but I'll confirm with Laura and we'll discuss through the seeker, seeker, how we handle that and your options. So if you don't mind, Laura and I will hop off on a call and we'll be back before the end of the agenda.
Is that fair to everybody? I mean, this is unprecedented. Yeah. I've never seen this in 11 years, but we have been living this. I don't want to drag this out anymore. I mean, Joel is losing the building season. The neighbors can't live with this uncertainty anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd rather address it this evening. Yeah. So if they can.
Laura and I will be
back.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So we will move on. We will come back to this one.
Okay. Thank you, Laura and Alexis. Thank you very much.
Okay. We're going to move on to 2020-194, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution authorizing payment to TKC for Trottingham Drive emergency sewer repair in September of 2018.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second. John's name is on this resolution, but it is mine.
Is it?
Well, the one I'm looking at, and maybe I know there was another packet that was given to us at 6:15. Maybe that was one of the pieces, but I could not get to 230 pages in a new packet. So the one I'm looking at, 194.
It was changed.
194.
I read those, and it was changed to your name, this one,
Yeah,
in
at
the
6:15.
the
So
ones
I
I
got this at 4 o'clock. So, okay. All right, that's great. So Ben, somebody want to second this?
I'll second.
Bill, oh,
Thank you, John.
Okay, is there any discussion?
I want to thank Paul Briggs. He did a tremendous job here. This took months. He tried to negotiate something. He sat there and did all the math. He looked at every rate that's ever been submitted to us. This is a project that, as you see in the title, it happened in 2018, and we went round and round on it. But I really do. He's an outstanding attorney, and he really did a wonderful job protecting the interests of the community and the taxpayers with this resolution. So thank you to Paul Briggs.
Is there any further discussion? I did just have a couple of questions if Paul Briggs is on. There were a few where the hoe and the low bed were.
Those didn't get addressed. You raised them in committee. You had some questions about some
Yeah.
rates. Those didn't get fixed.
I did. I don't believe so.
I thought they did. I thought Alexis, she talked to me about it.
Oh, if they did, then.
Yeah, I think they did. I think those things you raised, Alexis had already talked to you about them before. She talked to Paul. I think they got raised.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So I just want to
You
make sure
raised
they're
good points. There were numbers that were inverted and stuff like that. So yeah.
Okay.
There was a lot of real math that got done. I mean, they took charts from years. So
Yeah. We like real math.
I know you do. I know you do. That's why I said it. So thank you too, Madam Supervisor. I know people were saying to us, just pay it, just pay it. And it was 5 times this amount. So, and thank you for weighing in and doing some real math on this as well.
Thanks. All right. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2020-195, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution amending section 147-5 of the Code of the Town of Niskuna prohibiting vaping and use of electronic cigarettes at town parks.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
I just want to thank all my colleagues. This was a resolution that came late, and everybody knows I don't like late resolutions. However, thanks to the generosity of NCAP, we'll be putting some new signage up throughout our parks. The vaping issue is something that I've been working on for a few years in Albany, and it was something that I had already been talking to the Capital Region smoke-free folks about. Before I had found out about the NCAP signs, we were moving toward a package of legislation, but because of the timeliness and the grants that NCAP needs to spend rather quickly, we thank you everyone for accommodating the hearing tonight and this change in local law. I think as we heard from the comments, this is something that's very important to our community. I was always very proud of our smoke-free signs, but to some of us, they still feel new and they look new, but they were a long time ago now, and the world has changed dramatically. And there's many more things that face our young people and face our communities, and we really do need to address this in our parks. So I'm looking forward to those new signs. I appreciate everyone's support on this measure. It's a very important measure, and I think we'll be doing more things on vaping moving forward.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed?
Yes,
5 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2020-196, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution enacting a local law broadening the residency requirements for town comptroller.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
I just want to address some of the comments we heard tonight. I want to thank everyone who weighed in on this issue. I think they made very important points. They made very valid points. I had always throughout my career were very much supportive of and sponsored some residency requirements. People live in the town, department heads live in the town, let alone the county. However, this position is the single most important position in the town. It touches every single thing we do, from actually doing the budget and those big high level spending initiatives and taxing and things like that, to making sure that we pay for the pavement to pave the potholes, or making sure that the kids who work at the camps get paid. And a lot of things are tugging at us as public servants right now, ensuring our communities are safe, ensuring our tax dollars and being good stewards of those, but also ensuring that we have the best and the brightest and the most diverse workforce. And it really does seem, and taking a step back and looking at the world that we live in right now, we might not be able to, right from within Niskuna, provide the most diverse pool of applicants for a position that is as important as comptroller, from just the folks that live right within our community, the 21,000 people who live in Niskuna. This is a very complicated position. I don't think that I would be willing to waive this residency requirement for every position that we have. Not every kid who works at a camp, not every lifeguard, but this is a position that really requires another level of experience, of education, of understanding of local government. And so I'm hopeful that if we pass this resolution and we broaden the pool of applicants that we can interview, we will have somebody who can fill a position that was held by somebody for 32 years. And he did the job pretty well. So they've got big shoes to fill, no matter where those shoes reside at night. So that is why I take this very seriously, but I listen to every word of the folks who were opposed to it, and I appreciate it, and I respect those words as well. But I do feel that a position like this requires a broader pool of applicants.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada?
I agree that this is probably the most important position in the town, and for that reason, I am going to vote yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith?
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw?
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin?
Aye.
Supervisor Syed?
Yes,
5 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2020-197, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to award a contract to Barton and LaJudas for technical assistance at the wastewater treatment plant.
Thank you. Do I have a second? I will second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada?
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith?
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw?
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin?
Aye.
Supervisor Syed?
Yes,
5 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2020-198, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to appoint a plant operator trainee at the wastewater treatment plant.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada?
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith?
Yes.
Councilman McGraw,
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin,
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
5 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2020-199, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to appoint a temporary seasonal worker in the Water and Sewer Department.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada,
Yes.
Councilman Jakewith,
Yes.
Councilman McGraw,
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin,
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
5 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2020-200, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution authorizing the supervisor to enter into an agreement for a fence easement at 24 Laura Lane.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw,
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin,
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
5 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2020-201, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution authorizing the supervisor to enter into a fence agreement at 1036 Hickory Road.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw,
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin,
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
5 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2020-202, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution amending Resolution 2020-47 and authorizing the supervisor to execute an independent contractor and professional service agreement with Daniel Golly.
Thank you. Do I have a second? I will second. Is there any discussion?
Can somebody, this is just a technical correction to a resolution that we had done previously for Dan Galley. I'm very pleased that he has decided to come back as a contractor to just help us occasionally on projects where he just really has expertise that we need in this town. The rate is very reasonable. It's just an occasional use of it, but this resolution itself is just a technical correction to the resolution we had already previously passed.
Great, thank you. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith,
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw,
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin,
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
5 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 220-203, sponsored by Councilman McFarland. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution enacting a local law to amend Chapter 55 of the Code of the Town of Niskuna entitled Alarm System Emergency.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I was muted there. I need to make some changes on this resolution.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Under the 55-2 definition, Michelle, I can get you all this, or I can send you an email that came from planning.
Bill, you're gonna have to speak up if you're gonna do amendments.
From planning and legal, we've got some changes that we have to make here under 55-2 definitions, where it specifically talks about NFPA standards. References to the most current adopted New York State building code was added. Under 55-2, there's definitions for false alarm, police station, and communication center were replaced with unified communication center for consistency. Under 55-2, definition of the unified communication center was added. Under 55-2, installation of standards, the specific NFPA standard references were removed. Under 5-4 is a clarification added. New York State license required to install security and fire alarms. Under 55-5, permit requirement. Under section 55-52, registration requirements, a clarification was added for the annual registrations to the police department. Under section 55-6, the code references changes to NFPA and New York State Building Code. And under 55-8, liability of the town, the header was removed and replaced with words in the entire section. So I will send you those changes.
Okay, but how about the people who have to vote on this? You just rattled off more things than I've ever heard.
Yeah, well, that came from our planning and legal. If you want to postpone it or table it, I'm fine with
I
that
do.
also.
I couldn't even hear half the things you were saying.
I'm fine with postponing it or tabling it.
Okay. I'll make a motion to
Make a motion to
table it, right?
That's fine.
Okay.
I'll second the motion to table.
Feeling on when it comes to the how we're going to do the oral.
Okay. So we have a motion to table and a second. So if the clerk could please call the roll on the motion to table.
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And that resolution is tabled. Next resolution, 2020-204, sponsored by Councilman McPartlin. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution accepting grant monies from the Governor's Traffic Safety Committee for use by the Niskuna Police Department.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2020-205, sponsored by Councilman McPartlin. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution appointing the confidential secretary to the Chief of Police.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Okay. Next resolution, 2020-206, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution authorizing the supervisor to execute a consent letter to modifications of antenna facilities.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. We're now going to bring back up again from the table 220-193, sponsored by Councilman Delarada. I will entertain discussion.
So Laura and I conferred, and we did agree that the town board has authority and it's not infringing on planning board's zoning jurisdiction to issue a special use permit with the condition of there being no connection. It would, Laura can speak to this, but there would still be a forked cul-de-sac. It would just obviously not be a cut through. And that we just have to modify the resolution to reflect that condition. And also it'd be advisable in the first resolved clause that concerns seeker that the negative seeker determination would be based on the fact that you would find a connection would be the traffic issues caused by a connection. That's a condition of your giving a negative seeker determination is no connection for that reason. Laura, if you have the proposed language for how you would do that amendment. I think Laura's on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So I'm working on it. I think that if you're doing a conditioned seeker declaration and you really want to, you have to tie it into one of the rules of seeker, and I just have to find that rule and add it in there. So hold on.
Okay, so Laura, you keep looking for that, and then I just want clarification from Alexis. It will always have to go back, right? The site plan approval would have to go back to planning anyway, regardless of what we did tonight. Well, if we did this tonight, right?
Yeah, correct. I mean, this is obviously, it's going to be a long relationship between planning board and the developer in terms of how much interaction they'll have. What I had discussed with Laura is I wanted to confirm that the planning board and Laura were aware that, the layout as is not going to change. And Laura said that, the planning board understands that, and regardless of the connection being there or not, they would still want this forked cul-de-sac, and they wouldn't want an alternative design, meaning they wouldn't want the houses moved around if there's no connection. So there would be no changes to the sketch plan really, besides to remove the connection.
Okay, and that's what we had hoped, but then
I think there was
perhaps
confusion
otherwise because they would get all that extra room from not a road, right, to a little path. Right?
Correct. I had
was
thought
that your thinking?
Yeah, I was more just referring because I know there's been plans presented with just the multi-use path, and I think we wanted to clarify that it's not as if by approving it with the condition of no cut through, that doesn't mean we're reverting to one of those alternative plans. It means we're still using the same plan presented, just no connection.
Exactly.
And so Laura confirmed that. So the town board understands that. Are there any other questions?
Thank you for working this out. I will say, part of me is really looking forward to going back to in-person meetings. But because
I hear you.
There's a lot of voices. There's emails, there's texts, there's chats, there's other people speaking.
I don't know if you had more questions or if we're just resonating and thinking right now.
I think we're waiting on me and maybe just need a tiny bit of help. So what we're doing is we're tying in no road connection to section 617.2.
Laura, isn't it sufficient to just say the negative seeker determinations conditioned on there being no connection? Do we have to cite?
No, because I almost feel like it's a substantial adverse. So the reason I just like to be specific, and maybe that's good. Denise made the point that it's not a planning board meeting, and I apologize. But I would say that the town board is saying a substantial adverse change in traffic and noise levels. So you would say in order, and in order to mitigate a substantial adverse change in traffic and noise levels, no road connection would be completed in connection with this special use permit.
Yeah, I think that suffices, and maybe we can make sure that we can also put a condition that the planning board in their next resolution and maybe expound on that, the secret determination, or do you think it really needs to have that level of detail right now?
I like detail. It's up to you.
I would prefer the detail if we can get there. I don't want anybody else to live in this limbo anymore.
It's more like purgatory.
I know. That's true.
All right. Do you guys care? I know that this is not your favorite, and I also I had the meeting going, even though Alexis and I were talking, and I was just watching, and I saw that Bill was reading all the amendments to the alarm code that I did last minute, and I really appreciate that. But I'll just show you. Okay, so I have this. In order to address a substantial adverse change in traffic and noise levels, no road connection would be completed in connection with the special use permit, and be it hereby further resolved. I don't know why this is here. And then you would say the average density shall occur with a bike path connection only between Windsor Drive and development.
And Laura, I would remove the as supported by the comprehensive plan part.
No, I will definitely agree to remove that. And then you probably I don't know if you actually still need to say the entrance on River Road, because you're only doing a bike
Right,
path.
because we have nothing to do with River Road anymore.
Yeah, so I think that's fine, but it's your call. You could add another condition saying, the main entrance on River Road, but if this is saying bike path connection only between Windsor Drive and the proposed development, I think that automatically requires that it goes onto River Road.
And do we want to call it bike path? Can we call it multi-use path connection just for consistency?
Oh yeah, no, you definitely should.
Laura.
Oh my gosh.
And so for the town clerk, I know for the town clerk's, she's going to have to, indicate exactly what part of this resolution was amended. So Laura, are you able to put that in either track changes or call it out? I mean, I can see where the changes are, but I want to make sure
Somebody share this so everybody can see what we're doing.
Put it in bold or in red or something for me,
Yeah.
Yes.
please. Thank you.
Yeah, they'll get you the right document, Michelle. We're not worried about you. We're worried about the people who have to vote on this right now.
Yeah.
Making sure that it's right. You'll always get the right document from Alexis.
I can see the changes.
Okay,
Everybody else?
So here's the changes here. Sorry. Yes. This was added here. And this was added. And then I did remove those. I can put that sentence. Oh, oops.
Yeah, so it will be a motion to amend by inserting the red and striking the part that Laura deleted, as well as the last bracket on 3, and strike obviously the or with the denial.
Oh yeah.
Right, and fix Windsor.
So yeah. Switch bike path to multi-use path.
Yeah, which I did. It's there. Ugly. Sorry.
Can you scroll up a little bit, Laura, so they can see the first resolved?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. My internet. Okay. There you go.
And Windsor Drive instead of Windsor Road.
Oops. You guys are fine with the deed restriction remaining forever wild and the and we've discussed before that the crosswalk should happen immediately, like maybe even before-
Please.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm heartbroken that we don't have that yet.
I know.
Okay.
Laura, do you want to just specify, so there's a condition being the average density development shall occur with a multi-use path connection only. I mean, do we want to say shall occur with no connection and make, or do we want to, I just think the wording of one is a little bit awkward now that we removed the connection. I would just say the average density development shall not include a connection and shall only include the multi-use path connection. Because if you're looking at the attached map, it's going to be confusing if we don't specifically say no connection. Yeah, and shall only occur with it, or you can word engineer this, but I would say it should say the average density development shall not include a vehicular connection, and may only include a multi-use path connection between Windsor and the proposed development.
Okay. Do you like it?
All right, so before we hit pause, we had a motion and a second, and I believe Councilwoman Jakewith was contemplating a motion to amend.
Right, so just say as, guess we can
As
say
amended.
as amended.
Right, I second that.
Okay, Councilwoman McGraw seconds. So will the clerk please take the roll on the amendment?
Councilman Delarada. Councilman Delarada. Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
Yes, by the way, I don't know if I unmuted,
Yeah.
but yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. 5 ayes.
Okay, 5 ayes on the amendment, so the amendment passes. Will the clerk please call the roll on the motion as amended?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
Motion as amended passes. I believe that concludes all of our resolutions for the evening. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
I just want to, before we do that, we have to thank Laura and Alexis. I mean, that was extraordinary what we did tonight. I'm thrilled that we didn't have to wait another month or longer. The residents deserved better than that. Joel deserves better than that. The planning board deserves better than that. Everybody did. So Laura, Alexis, extraordinary work this evening. Thank you very much. I know this was always what Councilman Delarada wanted. He led the way on this. John, thank you for staying strong. And thank you all for your patience this evening.
Yes, and thank you for all the folks at Windsor. They really put a lot into this, and I hope, they were heard. They were definitely heard.
I'd also like to thank everyone, the planning board, the many hours of meetings spent considering this. They have a great charge. They take it very seriously. They do great work. And the residents who spoke at meetings and provided us with some information. You're all very thoughtful, thorough, and outstanding advocates. So thanks, everyone.
Absolutely, well said. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Alexis, for the time you put in this evening. Thank you to all the town board members for very carefully considering this as well. Most especially, thank you so much to all of the Windsor Drive residents You invited us in your homes. You are incredibly welcoming, and you are incredibly astute now in all things planning, I'm sure. So take that knowledge and do well with it. So with that, if someone would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, everyone. Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Bill. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are now adjourned. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. Have a wonderful evening. We will see you soon.
Good night.
Night.
Hopefully not
Good
too
night.
soon.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Good night. Thank you, everyone.